And welcome to Beerfield. I am your host at Hot BFF with 2 P's. Chris Hopper, joined by Dan Thury BFF with 2 F's. Dan, what's up?
Oh man, I've been waiting for this all day. I did a show with my boy Matt McCoy on Tuesday night, and I was hyping this one up too a little bit, just to dive into all the free agent shit that we have going on, and also the second part, and just to talk about beer and bourbon, just things to help expand what our new direction that we're going in. So I am fucking pumped.
I am also stupid pumped. By the way, just a quick reminder before we introduce our guest here and get really into this. One, Twitter handles. I'm at Hot BFF. He's at Thury BFF. We just said that. At Beerfield FF is the show. Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube if you're not listening there. If you are on YouTube and also seek out the audio, first off, thank you. Second off, why would you want to listen to us twice? But we are changing up our podcast hosting platform this week, so there might be a little weirdness as things go into sync and we get all that hammered out and ironed out. We kind of gave the warning shot last week. If you're listening to this as audio only, I guess I got it working, so we're good there. But just so some people are aware. Also, you will notice that we are on a Thursday night and later, and if you're on YouTube, that we're on a Thursday night and later instead of a Tuesday night. So kind of be our foreseeable rhythm going forward is Thursday evenings around 8 versus Tuesday evenings around 6:30, just for a little bit better work-life podcast, Bourbon Society, homebrew, 3-month-old balance for myself, really. So,
Oof.
Yeah, that was a list of things. Anyway, super excited about this episode. We're going to go talk free agents. We're going to drink some bourbon. We're going to drink some beer. So we got some esteemed drinkers to join us on this show. Shane, we'll go ahead and start off with you. Let people know. Introduce yourself. Let the people know what you do, where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. I am Shane Barrett. I am the co-host of the Fantasy Nightcap underneath the Fantasy Football Astronauts podcasting umbrella. And then I am a writer for the 14 Personnel Guys, and I have an article coming out probably in the next few days for a dynasty standpoint, dynasty sleepers. So I took guys with an overall ADP of over 200 and told you if you should invest in them with a late round pick or not. So that should be coming out in the next few days. One other thing I want to plug before we pass it on to our other guest is Polly's Playoff is rolling for year 2. And so that is a charity tournament that I run for the Walk to End Alzheimer's. So you can register for that on my pinned tweet.
All right, and Mr. RotoLounge Brad.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, you can find me in 2 places. The first is probably on Twitter at RotoLounge. Tonight, you can call me Brad Starks. The second place you can find me is here in the lounge, drinking some of my favorite bourbons, researching fantasy football. So looking forward to this, guys. This is my first podcast guest appearance, so take it easy on me, and I'm excited about this one.
This is an easy one to do because we don't require any prep. Analyst in air quotes. I'm going to buy that shirt out of Pat McAfee's store. Like, it's what it's all about. Just drinking a little beer, a little bourbon, talking a little bit of football. So, speaking of the beer and bourbon part, we're talking free agents. I think I said that already. Let's go ahead and talk about what we're drinking.
What's fueling Beerfield?
Dan, start with you. Show them how it's done.
All right, I am drinking for the second week in a row. I have 3 Floyds. I have their barrel-aged behemoth. Barrel-aged behemoth is a barrel-aged barley wine, straight up, no adjuncts added. Forgot what the APV on this one is, but I know it's at least double digits here. And then I have just poured. If you didn't see it on the show, I just poured myself a mini glass pour of Weller 12. So I'm going to probably be grabbing some water here in a second because I completely forgot to grab some, and I'm going to be fucked up if I don't. So.
All right, I've got some Early Times bottled in bond. Early Times is a Brown-Forman product that was recently sold to Sazerac. I'm pretty sure this is still the Brown. Well, I know this is still the Brown-Forman juice because this bottle was before that was purchased. So bottled in bond, we know we're at least 4 years old, even though it's non-age stated. Also, at exactly 100 proof. I had to double check that it's non-age stated. It is. And also exactly at 100 proof. So it's about a $25 bottle. Personally, one of my favorites. I'll give tasting notes on it later on, but it's an incredible value bottle to find. Brad, what do you got?
Okay, tonight, guys, I'm going to be drinking some bourbon that a good friend of mine in Arizona, you can find him on Twitter, at Bobby Bruce, sent me some Smoke Wagon. This is out of, if you haven't heard, this is out of Nevada, H&C Distillery. A really cool guy. You can find him on Instagram. He basically blends his own whiskeys and makes a great product. This is the uncut, unfiltered, batch 26, coming in about 115 proof. It's a great bourbon, so I figured my first time on the podcast, I'm going to treat myself to this baby here.
Had that one last night, so little note comparison here later in the show. And Shane, you got beer.
I'm the only one not drinking bourbon. I am drinking R.J. Rocker's Son of a Peach. Cool story is my best friend since high school, his father-in-law owns R.J. Rocker's in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and this is their flagship beer. So it's a peach wheat ale, 5% alcohol by volume, and I looked it up on Google real quick. It's got a 16 for IBU. I have no idea what that means, so you guys are going to educate me. I just drink what I like and what tastes good.
IBU, bittering units. So it's how they measure bitterness in beer. I have no idea. And this is even the home brewer in me. I'll admit I have no idea what it's based on. It's just it's this many IBUs, and the higher it is, the more bitter it is. So there you go.
That is helpful.
It's so
information.
interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually want to look that up, how to actually measure IBUs.
I probably should at some point, because it's one of the target things you go for when you're brewing is gravity, SRM, which is color, and IBU. Those are kind of the numbers that you try to hit when you're doing that. And so I feel like I should know that instead of just popping it into the online calculator and estimating it.
Then, of course, the first thing that pops up is there's several methods.
There always is
to measure. It's like, oh, cool. I don't have fucking one to just to sit with.
There is. All right, let's go ahead and get into some of the non-free agency related news here. We have thoughts on things as we go through the show. First off, Bears are a total dumpster fire. They cut All-Pro Kyle Fuller. Shortly after that, Allen Robinson signed his franchise tender. We'll get into some of the other moves that they made earlier today. Cutting Kyle Fuller, though, a little bit of a hard one to stomach, especially when Jimmy Graham's on your roster and you can designate him post-June 1st and, have zero dead cap to save $11 million. So cutting Kyle Fuller for a year of Allen Robinson also seems like a bit of a weird thing for me. Thoughts on that move and the dumpster fire that is the Bears?
What the hell were they thinking? Why not try and trade him? That's what I want to know.
Right.
This is going to sound really dumb probably, but that's my thought in fantasy football is, yeah, you may have someone that you can cut, but why not go try and trade him for a 4th or a 5th round rookie pick just to recoup some loss? I mean, it's worth taking a flyer on a 4th and 5th round rookie pick. Why would they not try and trade this guy who's talented enough to get you a semi-decent haul? Am I wrong there? That he's good enough to get you somewhat of a decent return?
It might be based on what they anticipate other teams to sign him for that could help with the compensatory pick, but that's for 2022. So they wouldn't get it. So there's no compensation for this year for him, obviously, you just said. So there might be something more into that. And plus, I think they had to get their contract or their cap down before today started. So, or before yesterday. So I'm not really sure what all that entails, but yeah, this one came as a shocker to I think most people.
Yeah, indeed. And Brad, just jump in if you got something to say. If not, I'm not going to call on you, so I'm just going to keep moving.
Yeah, there's no raising hands here.
Yeah, we don't We don't raise hands if you don't. But I understand if you don't want to talk Kyle Fuller. I get it. I don't want to talk Kyle Fuller. It makes me upset.
I mean, I'm more of an offensive skill position type.
I promise we're getting to
let
that.
You guys handle the IDP defensive stuff.
That is literally everything after this next note. The NFL agreed to new TV deals, extra streaming rights, 17-game schedules expect to be the next domino to fall at the end of the month. We don't need to put a lot of thought into this. Go look it up. One of the biggest things, Thursday Night Football, now Amazon Prime. So yeah, have fun with that. And then you will get some streaming games on like Peacock. So NBC will have streaming games on Peacock. And there's a few other methods. Of note, not Red Zone, but damn, Sunday Ticket was not addressed in that deal. So
interesting.
I think they're going to try to market that as something else. Not anything we need to deep dive into, just so if you're a listener of the show, so you're aware, you have other options other than Reddit streams, basically. Phillip Lindsay.
One thing I'd like to mention about that, too, is that was one of the things that I think was holding up the Dak deal, is because he wanted 4 years, and the Cowboys wanted 5. They obviously ended up at 4, but that's because that's when the new money kicks in, I think, for the next TV deal, and he wanted to cash in on that.
Oh, interesting.
Nice.
Oh, interesting.
It is interesting. Phillip Lindsay was had his tender rescinded by the Broncos, so he is now a free agent. So, thoughts, landing spots, does it matter? I mean, he very, very good first 2 seasons, a little bit injury riddled. Melvin Gordon obviously didn't help his cause last year. Injury riddled season. How interested are we in where Phillip Lindsay goes?
I'm more excited about what this does for Mike Boone. The Broncos, they added Mike Boone, and he's sneaky explosive. He's still only 25. He's probably a guy that I'm going to look at now in Denver as an add cheap, buy low. I don't really know where Lindsay might go, but I got my eye on Mike Boone. Probably once the free agency, excitement dies down a little bit, I might start going after some Mike Boone shares.
Dan, go ahead. I'll let you take the Mike Boone hype train.
We've had a lot of
jump on that. We've had a lot of Mike Boone discussion on this show.
Mike Boone versus Alex Madison, and who's a better backup to Dalvin Cook? I mean, that's what Boone's going to offer. In Denver, I think he's got a better skill set to complement Melvin Gordon. He's definitely a better pass catcher. So if there's going to be a role, it's going to be probably at that standpoint. If there's anything that's going to happen, that does happen to Melvin Gordon, I think Boone has the ability to step in and play a role. So he definitely has some dynasty value to him as just, Brett, as you just mentioned, as just a buy low. He's probably on your free agent wires right now. Redraft league, you're just waiting to see what happens with Gordon, as we go into the season. But there's nothing wrong with the little speculative ad of Mike Boone, just given, Gordon's had some up and down luck with injuries.
No, there's not. And, taking this the other way, Royce Raymond also still there, was
wow,
pretty, I mean.
We liked him.
I did like Royce Raymond. Not a whole lot of usage last season, but, you have to imagine that, Mike Boone, while talented, isn't having anything handed to him. So, I mean, there is a little bit of a window of opportunity there if you're still holding out hope for that. I do think Mike Boone's definitely a more explosive back and a better complement to Melvin Gordon than what Royce Raymond is. But just remember, Royce Raymond was highly talented, was highly regarded, and then kind of landed in that, Phillip Lindsay's breaking out situation, and then we're going to mess around with Devontae Booker for a little bit during his rookie year, and then go out, sign Melvin Gordon. So there's going to be one more opportunity there as well to try to settle in behind somebody. So if he's, he may have been dropped. He may be free. So if speculative ads, go do it. If anything, you might get a handcuff situation out of it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just say, from a Lindsay standpoint, I think a couple interesting spots would either be San Fran or Buffalo.
Buffalo would be interesting. I mean, he's a better version of Devin Singletary.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
They need a talented running back in Buffalo, someone more talented than the two guys that they've got. I've been talking about them drafting Chuba Hubbard, but I think Phillip Lindsay would suffice there, and would probably be, I wouldn't say cheaper than Chuba, but a cheaper option than any of the other running backs that are still out there.
Brad, you're going to throw something in there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to beat this Mike Boone thing to death, and I don't know how your conversation was, but some things that stick out to me is, I don't know how much you believe in draft capital, right? But the Vikings, they spent, I don't know, what is it, a third-round pick on Madison?
Yep.
Second, third-round pick on Madison, and Boone was an unrestricted free agent. So, he was down the pecking order based on draft capital, and if you believe that the general managers are and the coaches are using that as motivation. But when he had his chance to shine, other than that 1 week where everyone was excited for him and he kind of busted, he ended the season with 148 yards, I think, and 1 or 2 touchdowns. I think that he could actually be more than just a handcuff to Gord. I think the Broncos, obviously, I think they wanted him. I think that maybe he fits something that they want to do. I was a big fan of Royce Freeman, but it's just not panning out for him. And I would probably, at this point, I'd probably rather take a shot at Mike Boone rather than Royce Freeman. I mean, that's just where I'm at right now.
I wouldn't rather take a shot at Freeman than Mike Boone. I'm saying that if you miss Mike Boone, there might be a little bit of value in Freeman as well.
Oh yeah, and I got plenty of Royce Freeman shares, so I'm not. I should try to pump and dump, but you know what I'm saying. I don't have much Mike Boone, so
pump and dump.
Here you go.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, and not a lot of people are going to have a lot of Mike Boone. So as far as speculative ads go, he's definitely out there. If you have Royce Freeman, you spent a first-round draft pick on Royce Freeman to have Royce Freeman, or have acquired him in a trade in some regard. So, I mean, he's probably not floating around out there. Maybe like post-rookie draft cuts or something like that. And again, it's worth the ad. If anything, because that Melvin Gordon was a lot of ways ineffective last year, and that Denver is going to use a rotation. That's just what they've done. So you're one injury away from relevance there too. All right, keeping it moving.
So disappointing. Sorry.
No, you're good.
He's like perennially an RB2, but it's like the ugliest RB2 that you could possibly see ever. And it's like, I don't want it on my team. But then we actually go and look at him, and it's like, okay, there's value there.
Yeah.
What happens when they give that man? So what happens when you get a bunch of touches?
Mm-hmm.
You're not an efficient back. You just have to draft. You have the draft capital to your, to your name, and you've been productive for a couple of years with your first team. So.
Yep.
Hey, real quick on the Phillip Lindsay, and I haven't looked too much, but they rescinded his offer. Do you know what the circumstances were around that? Because I know both him and Boone were unrestricted free agents. Was it the money that they were going to pay him, or why'd they rescind that offer?
I didn't see. Let me see if I can figure it out.
I thought Lindsay was an RFA.
He was an RFA, and they tendered him, then they rescinded his tender. They mutually agreed to go their separate ways after they signed Mike Boone.
Which makes sense. I mean, it was probably more of a respect thing out of it. It was like, we're not going to hold you back. We know that you're still a good enough back. They probably can't afford to pay him. I mean, in the long run, so they may let him go now. Who knows what the trade value would have been for him, too.
Mm-hmm. Basically, they didn't sign Lindsay to a new deal last year, and then they tendered him at the lowest level, which was just right to first refusal. So I guess he might have felt a little bit insulted, and then after they went out and signed Mike Boone rather than pay him, I'm guessing it was a fractured relationship type thing.
Yeah.
Hey, can I drop a hot take real quick here?
Sure.
Drop it.
So Phillip Lindsay was the undrafted free agent. Darling went to the Pro Bowl, and we see what's happening with
James Robinson.
Yeah, exactly. And James Robinson is now the undrafted free agent, Darling. So let's revisit this in 3 years and see what it looks like.
3 years. We might find out this year when they draft. When they draft Najee Harris or Javonte Williams in the second round.
Book it. Go ahead. Just put that show on the calendar. 3 years, right here, right now, same group. We're talking James Robinson.
We're talking James Robinson.
I like it. I
March
won't have
18th,
this bottle. I won't have
2024.
this bottle of Smoke Wagon in 3 years, but I'll have something else.
You'll have the new
something.
bottle of
Some
Smoke
new
Wagon.
stuff in 3 years. Have Smoke Wagon that's, yeah. Eagles released Alshon Jeffrey. Nobody cares. Patrick Chung
Good.
retired from the NFL.
Oh, no.
Congratulations on a solid career. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. Free agency reactions. So we're going to go position by position, just kind of through what's changed in the landscape this week and break it down for you. I want to start at the quarterback, and I'll probably take these, we'll call it just 4 at a time, so 4 to 5 at a time, and just let's pick out some, somebody jumps out to you, go ahead and jump in and break it down. So Cam Newton to the Pats, 1-year deal there. Tyrod Taylor to the Texans on a 1-year deal. Ryan Fitzpatrick to the Washington football team on a 1-year deal. Andy Dalton to the Bears on a 1-year deal. And Jameis Winston to the Saints on a 1-year deal. A lot of 1-year deals.
It makes sense for these bridge, quarterbacks. It makes sense for a guy like Winston, who I think he's got the most, I guess the most to prove. He's 26 years old, 27 years old. And, he's coming. I mean, he's definitely better. He's definitely, better than just a journeyman backup at this point. And I think he's going to have the opportunity to play for a far bigger deal, which is going to come at the perfect time with all this money that's going to come to the league next year. So that's the one. If he's successful and he could beat out Taysom fucking Hill,
Please, for the love
of God.
for the love of God, for all my, Traquan
Taysom-
Smith and
Taysom Hill's a Mormon, right?
Yeah.
yes,
Can he please go on another mission? Please go on another mission trip. Go spread the Lord's word
oh, love it.
so that Jameis Winston
Can
and
finally
all of the
play.
rest of the New Orleans Saints players
Can eat those
eat.
W's.
Eat those
Yeah.
Eat those dubs.
eat a W. I don't care, man, but just get rid of Taysom Hill, please.
Hey, guys, you might not have me back on this podcast. I am the bearer of bad news.
Uh-oh.
I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio right now, but I was born and raised in Florida. I grew up a Seminole fan. I was a Buccaneer season ticket holder. I watched Jameis Winston as a high school prospect going to Florida State. I watched him his whole career at Florida State. I watched him his whole career at Tampa. He's not it. He is not it.
He got LASIK, dude. LASIK.
He got
Sorry,
LASIK.
that's just the
Hey,
that's just the take
people-
I'm gonna lean on.
Hey, people
LASIK.
want to jump on a narrative. Look, if LASIK was the problem, he would have had that a long time ago. Somebody would have told him to get surgery a long time ago. I just think that's a narrative. I mean, Jameis, he says the right things. He's a student of the game, but when the bullets are flying and he's got pressure, he
shooting
regresses
them.
back to just
He's shooting
chucking the ball
them.
around.
He ain't
You know,
aiming,
that's
but
what I'm worried about.
he ain't aiming, but he's shooting the bullets. I mean, he don't know where the hell they're going. Half of them are
Right.
going to the defense, but he's shooting them.
I don't
Yeah.
give a shit. Just like for me, it's like I'm glad that maybe fucking Mike Thomas can evolve from slant boy. Maybe they'll actually put him on some vert routes and deep posts. That or Traquan Smith is about to be a fucking all pro because
Yeah,
that's all Winston's
Or,
gonna do is
you know-
just throw it deep to him.
Or
Yeah,
you know,
Traquan, you better buy Traquan now before that star shoots to the moon.
Best ball ad right there.
Brad, you
right.
want some 6 degrees of separation shit? One of my childhood friends was Jameis's #1 receiver their senior year of high school.
Oh shit.
Nice.
So I've been following Jameis since then because Cameron Broadnex is my friend.
Okay, well then I'm not saying anything that you don't already know.
No, not really. I don't know if I agree with you, but that's just me, and maybe that's just I don't know, just the tie with Cameron that I like Jameis a little bit. I think I'm not disagreeing with anything that you guys said. He's just going to chuck the ball up.
But
I
I
don't
love
know
it.
if he can't succeed with that style though.
I love it. And you know what?
maybe learning under Breeze for a year helps.
For fantasy, QB1, baby. It doesn't matter if it's 36 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, and
Hey.
5,000 yards. QB1.
That's right. That's absolutely
right.
right. Yeah, that's right. I agree with that.
And
About to make a lot of people fantasy relevant. The way that Taysom Hill can.
yeah, and in all seriousness,
Amen.
like, I mean, I love Jameis Winston. Longtime listeners of the show know I love Jameis Winston. Love me some Jameis. But this is an opportunity where if either of these guys, because we know that Sean Payton likes him some Taysom Hill, if either of these guys can come in and perform at better than replacement level, I mean, there's a chance for them to stick here for 3, 4, 5 years.
I mean, if Josh Allen can figure his entire life out, I have faith in Jameis Winston.
Dan, I've never loved you more.
Exactly.
I'm definitely on a pro Jameis podcast now, but I'll tell you, as a Buck fan, it was actually comical. Jameis's last year, we would start a game and we would say Jameis is going to throw a pick 6 first drive, and literally he threw a pick 6. Like, it was comical, and I don't think this has anything to do with LASIK. He just throws the ball, and as soon as he starts doing that in New Orleans, they're going to yank his ass and put Taysom Hill.
Fitzpatrick did it too. I mean, it's just Tampa till Tom gets there.
Yeah, until Tom Brady was there, we had no hope. But Tom Brady has really changed that, and it's pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah, that man. Yeah, it's hard to truly hate Tom Brady.
All right,
I hate that guy.
We'll get to Fitz here in a second. I want to touch on Tyrod Taylor real quick. Watson I am convinced, is not playing another snap for the Texans. So whoever they draft is guaranteed to start and guaranteed to be good because they signed Tyrod Taylor and he's going to be the starter for the first 2 games.
Because for some reason he is.
That's just how it works.
He's the QB whisperer of his own backup. That, or maybe Watson did all the things that he's being accused of. He's out of the league anyways.
You guys have seen Good Luck Chuck, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
sadly,
Tyrod Taylor is the Good Luck Chuck of quarterbacks.
You're saying that he's Dane Cook.
Yes. Well, no. But anyway, the Fitzpatrick signing, we'll just go ahead and throw Kyle Allen in there as well as Taylor Heineke. That's going to be a quarterback battle.
No, it's not.
You on Fitzmagic?
Oh, I'm on Fitzmagic all the way. I loved that signing.
It's a good signing.
I said it a couple weeks ago on the nightcap that I think that Washington's really a capable quarterback away from being a really good football team, and then they went and signed Curtis Samuel too.
Yes.
This team, I think, could be very, very dangerous next year with Fitzmagic. Now, to Brad's point and to Dan's point, it depends on which Fitzmagic shows up. Is it the Fitzmagic that throws 6 interceptions in a game, or is it the Fitzmagic that was balling out in Miami?
It's probably both, just on any given week or any given half of football.
Yeah, no.
What we do know is that Terry McLaurin is about to go off. Like, what we do know is that man's going to get 130-plus targets. Like, whoever the wide receiver wants for a Fitzpatrick-led offense gets fed.
But you're right about Washington being a competent quarterback away. The defense was there. The defense was 100% there last year. Had a good wide receiver in Terry McLaurin. We'll get to the Samuel sighting in a minute, but we've said on the show a lot that they needed to bring in something, a couple other things behind McLaurin, and probably a back that complements Gibson so they have a little bit of depth there.
Have they signed a back yet? I feel like they did, but yeah, they did. We'll talk about it later.
Did. Yep, they did.
We will talk about it in a minute.
Shane, I have to side with you on this one. I do love the Fitzmagic signing. YOLO. I mean,
YOLO.
Terry McLaurin is he's gonna skyrocket this year. Like you said, he is the guy. I mean, I'm not really excited about Samuel. I mean, we can talk about that later, but Terry McLaurin is the guy to get this year. I think his value could be probably 2 rounds higher than you draft him in redraft leagues. So he's definitely somebody that I want to look at with Fitzmagic behind at center.
Should we talk about Andy Dalton?
Yeah, we can talk about Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, I guess. The Bears signed Andy Dalton to a 1-year deal. I like it, but this take is totally not fantasy relevant at all. I've been pounding the table for weeks and weeks and weeks for the Bears to do a bridge deal. Don't trade the farm for anybody. Don't, because you're going to fire your GM and your coach after this year. Or, sorry, not renew their contracts, whatever. Don't go out and draft somebody because Ryan Pace has proven to be absolutely terrible at evaluating talent in any way, shape, or fashion. Just bring in a bridge quarterback, ride out your last year into the sunset without setting the franchise back even further, and let's just hit the reset button here next offseason. Deal with the year of mediocrity. We're good. That's exactly what the Andy Dalton signing is. We're going to have another year of mediocrity. We didn't sell the farm to go trade for a quarterback. We didn't, and, we're probably not going to spend high draft capital or move up to 3 to draft one.
Unless Mac Jones falls to the Bears at pick 20.
No.
Just to ruffle up the feathers.
Yeah, I figured. Other signings, Newton's back to the Pats. Don't really need to talk about that a whole lot because the Pats have not done any much to build around him, per se. But he's back. We kind of know what to expect there. Brissett to the Dolphins on a 1-year deal. Solid backup for Tua. Solid person to help Tua along. Kyle Allen back to Washington football team. Mitchell Trubisky to the Bills. It gives the Bills some insurance if anything were to happen to Josh Allen. Trubisky.
I like that one, actually.
I do too. After his benching last year, he did good. We know that the coaching staff and the infrastructure is in place to help him work through some things. And if you're a playoff contending team, you don't want a freak injury to your quarterback to completely tank that. So it is a solid signing to bring him in to back up Allen. And you don't really have to change the offense a whole heck of a lot either.
No, you don't. Because Mitch is a lot more mobile than I think people, at least people that aren't in Chicago or Mitch Trubisky fans, realize.
Yeah.
And I'm a Trubisky fan. I don't know why. I just am. I like Trubisky. And he's a lot more mobile and succeeds when he is moved out of the pocket and used as a running quarterback and not just to stand there in the pocket and try and pick defenses apart. So I think this is a great backup situation for him. And like you said, Chris, I think that coaching staff can actually probably help him work through stuff. So if he works through it this year and improves, then maybe he's eligible for a starting role next year that opens up. Who knows?
Sure.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, you look at these teams like the Ravens. They brought in RG3 because he complements Lamar Jackson. Mitch Trubisky complements Josh Allen to a T. So if Josh Allen were unfortunately to go down, Mitch Trubisky can come in and run the similar offense. He's mobile. He's probably just as accurate as Josh Allen, and he can improve there, right? But real quick, I want to go back to the if I can, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The Andy Dalton signing, the 1-year signing in Chicago, which breaks my heart for Chicago Bears fans, and the 1-year signing for New England, the Cam Newton. One of these teams has got to make a move up to get Mac Jones.
It'll be New England.
Who do you guys think is going to move up to try to get him? I mean, I think one of them has to.
New England.
I think it'll be New England. With them having the better of the two picks, one of the we just assume that Mac Jones is going to be the one that falls. Maybe it's Trey Lance. Maybe it is Justin Fields that falls to pick 14, but actually just slipped out of the top 10 and will allow a team like the Pats. I don't know if the Bears will be aggressive enough to want to try to make that deal. I mean, we saw reports of what their trade offer was for Wilson. I don't know if they'll make that type of deal for a rookie, but the Pats, I definitely see trading out for one of the quarterbacks that slips out of the top 10.
I just wanted to see the Bears go through their full draft without doing anything stupid. Get a wide receiver. Go ahead and get some defensive pieces. You need a pass rusher. Go ahead and play it smart for once in your freaking life.
Yeah, I mean, when Darnold came out, I was a big fan of Darnold, but out of that draft class, really, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson were the best quarterbacks. And I don't know if it has to do with their scrambling ability, but I think that Trey Lance, because of his scrambling ability, I think he's probably going to go before Mac Jones. Mm-hmm. I really think he has upside just because if plays break down, he can move. And I don't know if Mac Jones can really move if plays break down. And the Patriots can try to think they're going to get the next Tom Brady. But, if Trey Lance is there for the Patriots, I think that they would be ecstatic. I think that the last quarterback that's off the board is going to be, of the top quarterbacks, is going to be Mac Jones.
One would assume, but he's an Alabama quarterback, and how these Alabama players for some reason tend to go 10, 20 picks higher than they should. So
Roll a
Is
pad.
this a AJ McCarron? Is this a AJ McCarron shout out?
it's Josh Jacobs shout out for that one. Running backs?
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
we
we didn't talk about Mike Glennon yet.
Oh,
Yes, running backs.
we talked about Mike Glennon.
Hey, can I tell you? Hey, as a Florida State quarterback or a Florida State fan, I used to watch Mike Glennon pick Florida State apart. And I was like, this guy's going to be good. And the Bucks drafted him, and I'm like, oh, this is the best. And he had like one or two good games, one against Seattle, I think, and another good game. But I thought this guy was going to be pretty decent. But yeah, he's just.
I mean, he's still in the league, so that's a big shout out to him as a backup. I mean,
Yeah.
those roles. It's like the best role in football, right? You get paid all this money to do absolutely nothing.
Back to
Hold the
right.
clipboard.
Yeah. Back to the Andy Dalton signing real quick. He also, by the way, now on a career basis has 10,000 plus more pass yards and I think something like 65 more touchdowns than any other quarterback in Bears history. So
It's a Bears QB1 all time.
There's that
already.
too.
Yeah. So let me tell you a story about Andy Dalton. So I was in Scott Fishbowl last year. I don't know if any of you guys were you guys
yeah.
in Scott?
I had been in 2 years prior, not last year.
I've been 3 in a row.
So I was in Scott Fishbowl, and I think I was 5-0, and my quarterbacks were Drew Brees. Oh, I can't even remember now. But anyways, Andy Dalton became the starter, so I spent all my fab. I had $90. I put it all on Andy Dalton because I was like, Andy Dalton's going to win me the Scott Fishbowl. If Andy Dalton can't win in Dallas with all of that talent, I don't even know what he's going to do in Chicago.
Yeah, don't draft Andy Dalton.
He's
Don't
gonna.
draft leagues.
They're gonna go 8-8. Running backs
8-9. They're going 8-9.
8-9. Sorry, it's a new 7-9. Malcolm Brown, Mark Ingram, Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack back to the Colts on a 1-year, $2 million deal. Interesting. Malcolm Brown, Mark Ingram, Marlon Mack, Carlos Hyde, Mike Boone, Devontae Booker, Kenyon Drake, Lamar Miller, Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones, Kyle Juszczyk. Juszczyk. We'll get to that in a minute. Malcolm Brown to the Dolphins on a 1-year. Sorry, I guess I should have put team names in there too. Brown to the Dolphins, Ingram to the Texans, Mack to the Colts, Hyde to the Jags, Boone to the Broncos, Booker to the Giants, Drake to the Raiders, Miller to the Washington Football Team, Jamal Williams to the Lions, Aaron Jones to the Packers, Juszczyk back to the 49ers on a 5-year, $27 million deal. Where do we want to start?
We should talk about the backups that I think people are freaking out. So let's shed light on Marlon Mack back to the Colts, Hyde to Jacksonville, and then Lamar Miller. I don't want to say Lamar Miller. I don't think that's a bad one. Jamal Williams to Detroit. So Jamal Williams, I think, broke Twitter for a little while because he was the first big backup signing, and people were just freaking the shit out for whatever reason. He signed a 2-year deal up to $7.5 million on this contract. What are you guys' thoughts on him and on Swift and on this running back situation?
Still DeAndre Swift. I mean, you need it in today's NFL. The bell cow is almost dead, so you need a change of pace guy that you can bring in and help with some of that workload. And you really need that anyway. The days of guys getting 30, 35 carries a game aren't there. Your top end backs are going to be 18 to 24 most games. So you're going to bring somebody in to help lighten that workload. If they go to a 17 games schedule, which it sounds like they're going to, you're going to need a little bit more depth. I don't think it's a significant threat to you. I don't think that Jamal Williams is a significant threat to DeAndre Swift. I think that Swift is still fine. I think that all the upside in Swift is still there. It was a giant overreaction. Jamal Williams is going to come in as a change of pace that, if anything were to happen to Swift, then you end up in a carry-on Jamal Williams two-headed, backfield
Non-monster.
Yeah, two-headed puppy dog
Puppy.
sort of situation, and that's that. That's my thoughts on Williams. I'm not worried about it.
So I made some tweets. If you look at last year's draft, you're going to have the top 5 backs. You're going to have your different set of owners: the JT owners, the Akers owners, the Clyde Edwards owners, the J.K. Dobbins owners. and the DeAndre Swift owners. So the DeAndre Swift owners are going to come to the defense of him that this is not impactful. But if you look at Dan Campbell, he was the assistant head coach to Sean Payton. And so he has watched firsthand Sean Payton bring in Latavius Murray to complement Alvin Kamara. He watched Mark Ingram complement Alvin Kamara for years. When he goes to Detroit, and I have questions about Swift. Swift came in as a freshman at Georgia. He was electric. He rotated with Chubb and Stoney Michel, which is great. When he rotates running backs, he's great. But he had injury problems in college. He had to rotate with Elijah Holyfield, right? Elijah Holyfield is not even in NFL. He rushed for 1,000 yards at Georgia, rotating with Swift. So unless Swift can be the Alvin Kamara efficient running back, when you add in Jamal Williams and you add in Jared Goff and you add in that coaching staff, unless DeAndre Swift is like the elite of the elite, I'm not excited about his potential as a running back. I think he could probably finish around the top 15 backs, which is good, but I don't think you're going to talk about a top 5 fantasy running back because I think Jamal Williams is going to get his touches. I think Dan Campbell's going to try to replicate what Sean Payton did in New Orleans, and Swift is going to be that scat back. He can receive, but if he can't stay healthy, because he also had injury issues last season, if he can't stay healthy, that's going to be one knock. But I really think Jamal Williams is going to get some impactful touches in Detroit. So, well, I'm not saying sell DeAndre Swift. I'm saying I would temper the expectations for DeAndre Swift, but I'm not an owner of him as well, so that could be why I'm a little biased. But I really do think Jamal Williams is going to be impactful in Detroit.
So let me ask you something. Outside of, we'll call it top 4 running backs, who are you excited for, and is there enough parity there to be super sure on how they fall? And I ask this given how I want to say the last 3 to 4 fantasy seasons have gone, where we're so sure like this is the top 3, and then that's not the case, and we're so sure that these guys fall in the next 2 to 3 tiers, and then that's not the case. So I almost feel like the way that you draft running backs now, because everybody's in a timeshare of sorts, and there's so much parity at the position that you do swing on, I guess, perceived upside, and I don't disagree. When Swift came in, we pretty much said that it's a Kerryon Johnson replica. It's a guy that was productive in college that had injury problems, has a very, very similar skill set that we know can be productive. We know Jamal Williams isn't going to come in and take the lion's share of carries. Not to say they won't be impactful, but...
Unintended there?
Yes, pun intended. But the way that the NFL is today, you can have another impactful back in that backfield without being hyper efficient like rookie year Kamara and still be a top 12 running back.
So I've got some numbers for you, and one of these I'm pulling off the top of my head, but look at the Browns this year.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb were both, I think, RB1s.
They were.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one example for you. But then, kind of to your point, Chris, and to your point, Brad, Alvin Kamara, the top 3 backs this year from an offensive snap percent share, and shout out to Matt Thornton, Matt FF Dynasty from the Astronauts, for tweeting this. Alvin Kamara was at 65%. Dalvin Cook was at 71%, and Derrick Henry was at 66% for their snap share. So they're kind of like you said, Chris. There's not the bell cow traditional running back is dead, other than maybe Saquon and CMC if they're healthy. Other than that, it's at least a 60-40, 65-35 split share. So I'm actually going to disagree with you, Brad. I think now's the time to buy Swift because I think people are going to overreact to the Jamal Williams news, and I think he's good enough to be, like you said, RB12, RB15, but you can get him round 3, round 4, And so I would buy him at that price or lower because people are freaking out because of the Jamal Williams side.
And 20 to 30% of touches, by the way, I don't disagree with your take at all on Jamal Williams getting impactful touches, because 20 to 30% of touches is impactful touches.
Yeah.
So, or 20 to 30, because you're going to have some other randomness mixed in there. But I mean
if, like,
that's impactful
Like
touches.
Joique Bell.
Joique Bell. Joique Bell's come back.
Well, if we're gonna fade Swift, we should be fading the Lions.
You know what I want to look at, and I think Swift is an elite talent. I think he's a very good running back, but there's so many question marks that I have. So we know that when Jeff Fisher was coaching the Rams, Jared Goff was terrible, right? We know that. When Sean McVay came in and Sean McVay was helping call the plays through the headsets that Jared Goff could read the defense, he was successful. If Jared Goff goes to Detroit and he is absolutely brutal, I mean, it's going to affect DeAndre Swift, because they're going to come down, they're going to stack the box, they're going to know that he's not a good quarterback. So I'm kind of worried about that piece. And the other piece that I'm worried about is DeAndre Swift's health. Can he actually take on an NFL role, and take the pounding, right? So with Jamal Williams coming in, I just feel like he's going to get touches. He's going to, between the tackles grinder. So while I do like Swift as a prospect and elite player, I just have a lot of question marks around that situation and how that would pan out. So to be honest with you, if Swift hits, I'm going to be okay not having any piece of that Detroit Lions offense. I'm going to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
He's not an RB1 in redraft.
And you can pretty much be okay not having a running back that's an RB1 1 year, 2 years anyway, because most of the time they're not going to string that together repeatedly beyond a 3 to 4 year stretch. One thing you said there that I do want to touch on, though, is what if Jared Goff is terrible? Well, if Jared Goff is terrible, they're going to be down in games. They're going to be in passing mode. 57 targets for Swift last year in just 13 games. So I definitely think if it comes down to where they're throwing more because they're behind in games because Jared Goff is dog shit and they're stacking the box, that's actually going to up Swift's value a little bit. Not saying Jamal Williams can't catch passes, but Swift is definitely going to be more dynamic in space than what Jamal Williams is.
Yep.
Can I drop another hot take?
Yeah.
Real quick, Shane.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is way out of left field, but I think Detroit's going to draft Kellen Mond, and I think that if Jared Goff is terrible, Kellen Mond's going to take over, and Goff's going to be a cap casualty.
What round are they taking Kellen? Like
I think they'll take him in like the third round.
Third round, they're going to
Yep.
See, I want Kellen Mond to go to the Saints. I don't know why. But
they have another bad passing quarterback that can run.
Yes, 100%.
Send him to Baltimore if you're trying to corner the market on bad passing
quarterbacks.
quarterbacks. Wait, what?
Here's why. I don't remember what podcast I was listening. I actually know it was Dynasty Nerds, and they were talking about him, and they were talking about how the last, we'll say 10 years. I can't remember what the time frame was, but a quarterback always slips into like the third or fourth round, who's not the most they're not the best passer, they're not the best rusher, or whatever, but they're a winner, and they know the game of football. That's Kellen Mond. And to me, if he goes to somewhere like New Orleans where there's talent around him and Michael Thomas and Kamara and Traquan Smith and Adam Troutman, he's not going to have to try and manufacture plays for himself or for the team. He's got enough talent surrounding him that he can go do what he does, which is win, because he did win at Texas A&M. Now, he didn't necessarily win the big games, but they always won 8, 9 games, 10 games a year while he was the quarterback. So, I don't know. I just have this pipe dream of Kellen Mond to the Saints.
Hey, can I tell you guys that I'm really enjoying this, man. I haven't been to a bar in about a year, but just drinking this whiskey, talking football, I love this, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Awesome.
And if Kellen Mond goes to the Saints,
Cheers.
We're happy to have you guys on.
if Kellen Mond goes to the Saints, that's the end of Jameis Winston. How about that?
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Jesus! Could we stop with the Kellen Mond? I'm just kidding. I don't dislike Kellen Mond. The dude's a terrible passer.
He's
though.
not Jared Goffel.
Not
He
Jared
might
Goffel.
be better than Jared Goffel.
If you look at, I was doing some investigation on Jared Goff. He's a California kid, went to University of Cal, went to, Los Angeles. Look at his record when the temperature is under like 40 degrees.
He's in a
And
dome.
now he's got to go to Green Bay. He's not a good
What is
quarterback
it?
in cold weather games.
Look, we're going
So
fucking weather.
That's another
takes.
concern.
What is it? Do you
I
know
love it.
what his record is in cold weather games?
I think it's right under 50% winning percentage.
The Lions are like, he doesn't need bad weather to hide behind the fact that he sucks and the fact that Detroit's going to be the.
And the Lions.
You're going to be
suck.
battling for the They're going to be battling for the 101 anyways.
Jared
You think
Goff
they're
is
gonna go
just
0-16 again.
Jared Goff is
I'll go
just
17.
Josh Rosen with a line.
Touche.
Anyway,
All right, I think we beat this.
we
beat
started
the
with Jamal
deadline.
Williams here at some point. So I forget who else you threw out there. Carlos Hyde. I'm
Yes,
not worried
we'll
about Carlos Hyde because Carlos Hyde goes everywhere and then is a non-factor for the most
He's
part.
not making the team. He's going to be cut before the season starts. That's my prediction.
You predicted that last year too when he hung around.
I
So
know I did. I'll be
I
right at
kinda-
some point.
So Dan, you said that you were worried about James Robinson being the undrafted rookie free agent that succeeded, and them drafting somebody in round 2.
you're getting credited, but you're crediting Dan with Shane's take or Brad's take. So you're
Oh,
Shane.
sorry.
But yeah,
I mean, I do agree with them. I think they will draft somebody in round 2. I did say that
But
too, though.
I think Carlos Hyde signing actually gives me hope for Robinson, and I don't know, maybe that's just dumb, but with them signing Robinson, I don't know if they're going to draft someone that early.
but who else were they going to sign? Devontae Booker? I mean, it wasn't exactly the who's who of running back free agent classes.
They have what,
Chris
6
Carson's
picks?
still out there. James
Oh,
Conner's
God.
still out there.
Okay, so Chris
I hate both
Carson's
of
still
them.
out there.
You still have yet
I-
to say somebody better
Yeah.
than Carlos Hyde. Well, he did say Chris Carson. Never mind.
You said Chris Carson, but
James Conner's better than Carlos Hyde, and
Yeah.
I hate James Conner.
Hey, Carlos, I don't know where you guys are residing from, but being in Florida, when I lived in Florida, we had a lot of cockroaches, man. And Carlos Hyde is like a fucking cockroach, man.
He's the new Frank Gore.
Hey, you can step on him and you think he's dead, but he comes back and he just
and
he
how
aggravates the shit
and
out
how
of you.
fitting is it that he is the new Frank Gore since that's who he replaced in San Francisco?
It is so fitting.
Oh, that's amazing. There's two
mean,
things that'll
hey-
survive a nuclear war:
Yes,
cockroaches
exactly.
and
Yes.
Barbie dolls. So are we throwing Carlos Hyde in there too?
No,
And
we're,
Frank
with
Gore.
Frank Gore.
And Frank Gore. He's the Tom Brady of running backs, man. He's just never
going
going
to
to
go
quit
away.
playing.
He won't go away.
That's disrespectful to Tom Brady, and I hate that guy.
Marlon Mack to the Colts. You don't worry about that.
It
Some-
pisses
some-
me off. I wanted him to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I wanted him to
Yeah,
go
me
someplace
too.
else so he could be free instead of stuck behind JT and Naeem Hines being the receiving back. But well, that kind of kills that. At least it is only a 1-year deal. We'll circle the wagons on that again next year. Mark Ingram to the Texans is at least mildly interesting, and you're not
No,
first
not
off 30
really.
plus year old running back. You're not doing anything with him in Dynasty, but
No.
from a redraft perspective, as ineffective as David Johnson has been, and as injured as David Johnson often is, there is a path to some redraft value for Mark Ingram. Mike Boone, we talked about earlier, like a lot earlier. Actually, that was more airtime than Mike Boone's gotten, I think, in the previous 332 episodes of the show
We should talk about
combined.
Kenyon Drake going to the Raiders, though.
I mean, hey, Mike Boone is only 25, right? So
Yeah.
it's like we can talk about him for Dynasty. Ingram and David Johnson, they're past their prime. We're not excited about them right now.
David Johnson's prime was actually just 1 year.
Pretty much.
He didn't re-up the Prime membership after that. Kenyon Drake, 1 year, $11 million deal to the Raiders. Now, this one is interesting in the same way that, well, let's just do this. Take what Brad said about Jamal Williams, and I want you to recycle that, but put Kenyon Drake's name there, but then actually put me on board with the fact that Kenyon Drake is going to be good, and has the potential to outperform Josh Jacobs.
At least Swift is, at least he's athletic, and it's been shown in the offense that he's going to run, that he's involved in the passing game, because that cannot be said about Josh Jacobs. And it just goes to show how bad of a pick he was at pick 24 in 2019, and the fact that they keep getting rid of their offensive line, which was, I know it wasn't great last year, but you completely recycled it. It's tough to think that the Raiders are going to actually have a strong running game, and this may point to, just like you said, Hopper, that maybe Drake actually takes on more snaps than what people think he will.
He tends to, doesn't he? And he also, even when he's rotating, just has some. I mean, he's a back that has some big playability.
Yeah, I got on Twitter, I think 2 years ago, and that was the draft class that I got on. And I got on Twitter because I thought that's where you need to go to talk fantasy. And in that class, I think that I had Jacobs third or even fourth in that draft class as a running back. And if you look at his career, I mean, he's about a 4-point yards per carry average. And last year he barely eclipsed 1,000 yards rushing. He had 12 touchdowns. Only 3 running backs scored more touchdowns than him. I think it was Kamara, Cook, and Henry. So really, those touchdowns is what elevated his fantasy stat line. And Drake comes in. I think Drake averages even more yards per carry than Jacobs. I think that Drake could really cut into Jacobs' his offensive production, and unless there's something more to this DUI that the Raiders like about Jacobs. But I've always been down on Jacobs. I think he was overrated, and it kind of shows that he's. I think he's mediocre. He just got a lot of touchdowns. So if Drake steals those touchdowns, I think Jacobs could his stock's gonna.
So let me say this about Josh Jacobs: he was a number 1 in this class for a lot of people, right? And you said you had him at 4, which
I think
is fine.
This is gonna hurt my track record, but I think I had Rykel Armstead.
Good Lord, don't get me started on that. But
NyQuil.
But I will tell you this: Josh Jacobs is still the most freaking productive back out of this class. Everybody that had him at number 1 so far has been right. Because Miles Sanders was my number 1, and he's outperformed Sanders, and he's outperformed Montgomery. And going down that list, Damian Harris hasn't gotten a fair shake. Myles Gaskin might be, on a single-season basis, the second most productive back out of this class.
It's what I've been saying, I think, almost all offseason, is that it's time to fade and trade away these 2019 backs. Josh Jacobs, his one redeeming quality was that he got first-round draft capital.
Yeah,
because that single-handedly almost resulted into him, getting over 225 touches his first 2 seasons. Which, if he's getting, even Kamara levels of touches in his rookie year, he's so inefficient as a runner that he would have been put on blast right away. It's that for some reason the Raiders decided to commit to him while at the same time not committing.
Well,
to him
I think we see why now. That class was not great.
It was always bad. It's the same thing this year. It's 1 or 2 guys that a lot of people like that are propping up the class as a whole. And what we do realize is that it's just time to fade weak running back classes. This is a time to draft high. This is the time to draft receivers and to draft tight ends and even draft quarterbacks. And it's time to fade running backs at value.
Sure. Keeping that moving, Lamar Miller to the Washington football team. This is something we wanted to talk about. They've got to draft somebody or do something else too. But this is a step, I guess, in the right direction if Miller's fully healthy. He had a cup of coffee with the Bears last year. I don't think took a handoff at all. I put him in a DFS lineup.
Was a Bear, wasn't he?
I put him in a DFS lineup the 1 week he was active, and Dave Montgomery was hurt, thinking this is going to be the coming back party. And he didn't touch the football once. We had screwed around with Ryan Nall and Cordero Patterson the whole game because the coaching staff was stupid. But anyway, I
never understood that shit. Why the fuck are you putting Cordero Patterson in at running back?
I don't know. He's a free agent, by the way, not signed anywhere yet. Thank God. As far as the Lamar Miller signing goes, though, I do think that this is the type of move that Washington needed to do. You bring in somebody that's not necessarily a threat to Gibson's carries, but that can spell him on occasion, that is more of a true between the tackles type back that you can use in short yardage and goal line type situations. It just is kind of a complement to what the many things Gibson does well and is a little bit of depth. And, it's this type of back. Is Lamar Miller the answer there? I don't know, but it's a 1-year deal that I'm assuming doesn't have a ton of money tied to it, probably veteran minimum. So, it's a type of move that makes sense.
And that's if he even makes the roster.
Yeah, they may draft somebody. They may, in the later rounds, they may bring more people in. He might not make the roster. Bryce Love might finally be healthy. Who knows? But it's a move. It's not one you're paying any attention to in Dynasty. It's not one I'd pay attention to in redraft. But it's from an NFL perspective, it's a smart NFL move that makes sense.
No, I agree there.
Do you think Curtis Samuel gets any carries too?
Probably.
He's the kind of catchy player that he is.
I mean, Ron Rivera did.
He went back to Ron Rivera.
Actually, yeah, exactly. I think you'll see a little bit more creativity with him this year. Whether that actually means fantasy success or not, probably doesn't. I think it's to help open up the offense more and to give a legitimate second option alongside.
If you look at how they use Steven Sims and some of the things they tried to do with him, it's just an upgrade over that type of role.
Yeah.
Can I interject for a second?
Yeah.
Do it anytime.
You don't have to ask,
Shane.
just do it.
Shane, is that a bullet bourbon hat you're wearing?
Oh yeah, it is.
What? Hey, Hop, you called out all my bourbon bottles behind me. How did you not see that?
I saw the hat. It was just
Shane's wearing?
I saw the hat. I think when he put it on, like I was getting set up to go, and I didn't. I just did a barrel pick of Bullet last week, so 2 weeks ago.
That is awesome. I have a Ohio Pick Bullet. I should get that shit and just drink it. That is awesome, Shane. I love you even more now, Shane.
Awesome. Bullet is my stepdad's favorite bourbon. So I think I can't remember where my mom and stepdad got these hats, but they gave one to me and one to my cousin, and I wear this thing all the time now.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot what I was going to talk about fantasy because I saw that bullet. I'm like, what? What is that right there?
So excited.
I got excited. I get excited.
All right. I don't see anything else here that we really need to discuss on the running back train. Brown to the Dolphins. I don't really care about Malcolm Brown at all.
Aaron Jones back to the Packers. What the hell?
Yeah, let's talk about that. AJ Dillon.
Oh God,
AJ Dillon's just gonna take over AJ Dillon's gonna take over the Jamal Williams role, I guess, and then from there, it's a hot hand approach. I mean, they probably hurt each other.
I don't know. I think it's going to benefit Jones in the long term because Jamal Williams surprisingly and annoyingly got targets at least in 2019 and 2020.
That's true.
I remember right. I don't know if Dillon is going to get those same targets. So that to me boosts Jones' value.
It does, but
he's going to. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say it does, but at the same time, while it boosts his targets, I think it hurts the fact that he is getting 16, 17, 18 touchdowns when you have Quads McGee back there that is probably going to be also a really good goal line back because you weren't giving Jamal Williams goal line carries. You will give A.J. Dillon goal line carries. So I think that, it's kind of a trade-off, right? Does the increased target volume
certainly
hurt the touchdown?
My only counter to that is Jones is uber efficient at scoring touchdowns. It doesn't matter where he is on the field; he's very good at scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for the for the fuck AJ Dillon chance that's going to come about this when Aaron Jones owners are just sitting there, fucking pounding the table, needing that 4 or 5 extra points, and here comes AJ fucking Dillon coming in at the 1 goal line, the 1 yard line.
You either
and gets his 3rd touchdown of the game.
You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I think this also tips the cap just what Green Bay
dead.
wants. Just what Green Bay wants to do. It just shows how badly their 2020 draft was, and it just shows the commitment to win now. Like if they felt like they were ready to move on to the next phase with Jordan Love or whatever,
They would have redrafted.
Jones doesn't get signed.
They would have re-signed Jamal Williams.
They would have maybe.
Yeah,
I don't think you want me to talk about the Packers 2020 draft.
I mean, if it's hating on that draft.
Can I talk about the A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones backfield for a sec?
Yes.
Yeah.
So first of all, I was a big proponent of Aaron Jones coming out. I have him in a lot of dynasty leagues, and then when A.J. Dillon was signed, I told all my followers, get A.J. Dillon, not because I think he's going to be the next Derrick Henry, but I just trust LaFleur is going to use him as a Derrick Henry type back. Now, if you look at Aaron Jones over the last 2 seasons, year over year, he's had less carries, but he's had more yards. So LaFleur realizes that, one, let me take a step back. Aaron Jones, if you had Aaron Jones as a rookie, you understand that he is injury prone. He doesn't stay healthy. Like his rookie year, he got hurt twice. His second year, he got hurt. He got hurt last year. He doesn't play a full complement of games during the season. Now, last year, Jamal Williams finished as running back 38, right? So that's right on the borderline of a RB3. So I think you automatically pencil in Dillon as a RB3 regardless. But who is going to be that running back 3, right? Because LaFleur rotated Jones, he rotated Jamal Williams, and then Dillon got his chance. Like you said, Dan, I think that Dillon might get a lot of goal line carries because of his size, that the fact that he can wear defenses down. So I'm not really as pessimistic on Dillon's outlook as a lot of people are. I think that he's going to get his. All he needs to do is jump about 10 spots and he can be an RB2. And I think that I think he can potentially get that with LaFleur spending that draft capital on him. I think you could see an even kill running back by committee with Jones and Dillon in Green Bay.
He is actually kind of on the Derrick Henry trajectory, right? I mean, the Titans drafted Henry. They then signed DeMarco Murray. They fucked around with that for 2 years. They brought in Dion Lewis. They fucked around with him for half a season. And then we got to finally see the metric rise.
Meteoric. Metric. It wasn't the U.S. system. We measured his rise in meters.
God damn it. It's been so long. Then we saw the meteoric rise of King Henry and what happened there. Now, obviously,
Have you been
Dillon
drinking tonight, Dan?
Yeah, right.
You don't give him an out on that. It's not the alcohol. He just does that.
No, this is totally just me. This is like that one song, Don't Blame It on the Alcohol.
Yeah. Kyle Juszczyk, I want to get into that for a second. Just real quick.
Fullback. Why?
Yeah,
he's the most important fullback in the league.
You just hold your horses. Don't underestimate.
Is that the Evan Williams BIB?
Early times.
Early times.
Yep.
Oh, that's my. I love that. I love that.
So
I got like 5 bottles.
In early times is exactly the reason I want to get into Kyle Juszczyk, because there's some parallels here.
Okay.
If you don't really know, early times is one of those if you know things, kind of like Evan Williams, Bottled and Bond, one of my other favorites, or J.W. Dant or JTS Brown, are these if you know things where they're $25 bottles, but they're damn good $25 bottles, and they're must-haves because you can grab them. You ain't got to feel bad about drinking them because you're not drinking a $100 bottle of bourbon down to the bottom. Drink $25 bottle. Early times you got to hold on to a little bit more because it is, of the group, kind of the hardest to find. It went away for a little bit throughout the whole brand transition and everything. Very, very good, though. I mean, it's won blinds for me. It's got, it's not super high proof. It's not hot at all. It's got a nice amount of caramel vanilla sweetness, which I know is cheating, but that's classic bourbon flavors. I get a little bit of like an herbally tea type note off of this, which is the rye coming out a bit in it. Towards the finish, it's a really good drinking bourbon that you want to have on your shelf because it makes your collection better. Just to have it be able to show up, hey, check this out. Like, you might not have seen this. And Kyle Juszczyk makes that backfield better. It is a fantasy relevant signing because Kyle Juszczyk makes that running game go. Aside from just being an outlet for his quarterbacks, the reason the 49ers can stick Dan back there and have him be a running back one
Goddamn
is
right.
because they still use a fullback system and they got the best one in the game. So you don't underestimate the $25 bottled and bond, just like you don't underestimate Kyle Juszczyk. Yeah, a little slow and low.
Hop. I love that bourbon right there. Let me ask you a question. If you drink too much of that, does that give you the whiskey headache the next day?
No, not really.
Because I drink that stuff like it's water, and the next day I'm like, oh, I regret it. But I love it so much.
Weirdly, no. The one time that I've had a whiskey headache off of much really in the last year or so was I did like 3/4 of a bottle of JTS Brown bottled and bond one night, and I woke up not wanting bourbon for the next 4 days and just total crap. But nah, it really does not give me that type of headache. But I'm not a big hangover headache type of guy either. Like, most of my headaches come from drinking like super sugary drinks. So, like I was given a Monster vodka or something the other day, which first off, gross, and second off, it was almost instant headache. Or I've got some cabin still sitting over there, which isn't technically bourbon because it's got stuff added to it. And too much of that will give me a headache. So it just depends. But no, early times doesn't. It treats me nice. It's old reliable. It's the one that's always going to respond to the "you up" text.
All right. Before we get to what Shane's drinking on, do you have a bottle of JW Dant?
I don't know currently. I might. I'd have to go up and look. I will go up and look here when we kick it to the next long conversation. I think I might though.
All right. I love that. That's cheap bourbon, $13 a bottle. I love that shit.
But
anyway,
Are you serious?
Shane.
Yeah.
Shane, I see you got some bourbon, man. What you got there?
It's slow and low,
baby.
I'll be right back.
Hogstadler,
let's
Rock and Rye, Union made with straight rye, whiskey, raw honey, navel orange, and rock candy and bitters. The rock candy part is what does it for me. It is so sweet and smooth. I drink this crap without adding anything to it all the time, and I love this stuff. My mom got it for me for my birthday either last year or the year before that, and when she came into town to visit us for the first time since we moved a couple weeks ago, I was like, Mom, what I want for my birthday this year is to just find another bottle of Slow and Low. So we went on an adventure together because it was during the kids' nap, and went and found a bottle of Slow and Low.
Oh man, I see those.
I love it. Let me see it. Let me see that bottle.
Rock and Rye, 84 proof.
I love that. Rock and Rye. Hey, Dan, we're on a drinking podcast when everybody has to leave and go get like a re-up. They got to go.
You know that we talk a lot and we got to get multiple drinks, and you know that we really fucking talk a lot because we got to piss in the like in between segments. So
Brad disappeared. Hop disappeared. He's either had to go.
He's getting that bottle for
find
you.
Some JW Dan.
Brad, man. So why don't you tell the people your thoughts on that smoke wagon? Because we love to give reviews here. I don't know if you do a lot of reviewing of bourbons instead of just being a massive fanatic of it. Why don't you give the people their take? Take on
it's
on that
funny
smoke
that
wagon.
you say that because I have one podcast. It's called the RotoLounge podcast, and normally I talk fantasy football, but every once in a while I started this thing called the Bourbon Collection, where if you look behind me, you see all the bourbons behind me. And what I do is I grab a bottle and I get the notes, the scents, the what I smell, and then I taste it. So I do this quite often. And this smoke wagon right here. So I did this for my Patreon. So I have a Patreon page, and Bobby Bruce got this for me. And I know offhand, like when I smelled this for the first time, it reminded me of if you've ever had applesauce with cinnamon and raisins in it.
Ooh.
Like that's exactly what this smells like. Is absolutely incredible. And then when you sip on it, it tastes like cinnamon, and then you get that raisin taste in the bourbon. I mean, this if anyone can ever get Smoke Wagon, this is an incredible bourbon. It's so good. But if you want to listen to some of my takes on some of my bourbon, you can find RotoLounge, the bourbon collection, and I go through kind of all my stuff. So I love it. I absolutely love it. And look, your boy Hop got one himself. He can tell us what he gets from that.
Oh, well, here in just a minute. By the way, I'll jump into it here when we get into the wide receivers. I'll keep these spread out a little bit. So I don't have J.W. Dant, and I don't have Evan Williams. Those are my two most killed bottles. So I think I've been through. So for a little perspective to the listeners, my collection right now sits at about 95, 98 bottles or so. And
Holy shit.
With everything that I have, I've killed off, I want to say, probably 3 bottles of J.W. Dant and 4 bottles of Evan Williams Bottled and Bond over the last year, just because it's such a good go-to that I don't feel bad about. But I did find something else pushed to the back that is also in that same category of cheap, ready to easily findable, good drinking, Bottled and Bond.
Yes.
Little granddad, so we'll get into that too.
I usually chase that with Bud Light. That's what we do in Florida.
That's how I had it the first time ever.
So, all right. So, love all the bourbon talk, but I figured we use this as a time to just talk about everything we're drinking. So, I'm gonna give a little bit of love to Three Floyds for the second week in a row. Again, I am drinking their barrel age, Behemoth, which is just a straight up barley wine aged in bourbon barrels. Not bourbon barrels. I think it's just aged. I don't think they even put the fucking barrels on here. But anyways, a little bit different than last week's one, where last week was more decadent. It had vanilla and chocolate added to it, so definitely not as sweet. This one you get the traditional barley, that old strong style added to it. Definitely you get the barrel added on to it. It's definitely boozy. It definitely has the toffee and coffee. You get vanilla on it. You get a little bit of dark fruit, some raisin to it. So it is for just a straight up barrel aged barley wine, which is becoming one of my favorite styles to just drink because it's not as heavy as most stouts. Definitely give this one a shot. Again, Three Floyds doesn't make very many bad drinks, and this one just adds on to the strong collection of great tasters.
Hey Dan, can I put a plug in real quick?
Do it, buddy.
Hey, so one thing that what I'm doing, I love bourbon and Hop. I know you love bourbon. So one thing that I'm trying to do, and we did it this last year, is I started what's called the Bourbon Bowl. Have you guys even seen that on Twitter at all? The Bourbon Bowl?
No, but you have my attention.
Yeah, I'm about to pull it up though.
Mine too.
So I started this thing last year called the Bourbon Bowl, and I don't take any profits from anything. Everything it goes to the winner in the second place, and then everything else goes to charity. So last year I got 2 leagues of 12 guys, and it only cost $20 to get in. Right, The winners of the Bourbon Bowl each got a bottle of Blanton's bourbon.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah. And in second place, they got a bottle of E.H. Taylor, which if you know,
small batch, single barrel, full. Which one?
It's the small batch.
Still really good bottle.
It's so fucking delicious, man.
Yeah.
Yes, I love E.H. Taylor, but it's the small batch, right? Mm-hmm. So it's $20 to enter. So this is I'm trying to kind of share my love for bourbon. It's $20 to get in. The winner got a bottle of Blanton's. The second place got E.H. Taylor. But also the winner got a Bourbon Bowl edged whiskey glass as their trophy.
Dude, that thing looks slick.
Yeah, we had 2 leagues, 12 players each, right? The rest of the money went to the Ronald McDonald House as a charity. I don't take any money from this. But this year I'm trying to expand. I'm trying to get to 4 leagues, and I really like Hop, Dan, you, and Shane. I love for you to be part of this.
Oh, of course, man.
I think the winner this year is going to get this right here. This
Weller Antique 107.
107.
Weller's 107. So
nice.
I'm hoping to get 4 leagues this year. I'm hoping to get 4 leagues. Each league winner is going to get Weller 107. Second place is going to get Weller
Special reserve.
Special reserve. This is that 90 proof,
But
it's only $20 to get in. The winners are going to be taken care of, and the rest is going to go to charity. So I'd love to have you guys in it. Anybody that else wants to get in it, hit me up on Twitter at RotoLounge. But again, I don't take any profits. I'm not trying to make any money. I'm just trying to share my love for bourbon and any bourbon lovers that want to play fantasy and win some bourbon. This is what it's all about. So
I'm in. First and foremost, I'm absolutely in for that, and maybe I'll find something around here, and we'll throw a third place prize into it as well here, and see if I can come up with a couple.
Why don't
bottles.
we? Once we're done up here, Brad, why don't you, if you can, why don't you stick around and we'll talk.
We'll chat for a bit.
We'll chat a little bit more. Shane, you're obviously welcome if you want to. But
You hang out for the after party too, but we'll chat for a little
All I
bit.
gotta say
I-
is stimulus check is here. I'm in,
Bucks.
Brad.
Let's go.
So, but yes, I am in. I would love to do that. All right, wide receivers.
I'd love to have all you guys in it, and I think my fantasy league also tweeted me and said that if I did it on their website, no, not my fantasy league. One of the websites said if I did it on their website, they'd throw in a bottle of bourbon.
Oh,
So there's a lot of
Let's
options
do it,
for
man.
2021.
Sweet, let's do it. All right, wide receivers. Speaking of options for 2021, let's kill this episode because now I'm excited for the after party. Sorry, did we get Shane a beer review yet?
Shane, you were drinking. Do you have any of yours left? Your beer left, bud?
I've got the can still here.
If you want to quickly talk about it, obviously
Yeah,
you don't have
so-
to if you don't want to. But if you want
No,
to.
I'd love to. I mean, hell, I went and grabbed a 6-pack of it 2 nights ago just so I could talk about it
Oh, that's
on
my
this
man.
podcast. So it's Son of a Peach. It's based out of Spartanburg, South Carolina. I live in Greenville, South Carolina now. It's a peach wheat ale, and I mean, it's basically all peach in the flavor, in my opinion. Which, if you're looking for a fruity beer that's easy to drink and you can drink multiple of in a night, this is the perfect beer for you. It's not like to me, it's not like a cider where it's kind of, I don't know. I prefer this over a cider.
Sure.
And I've really found myself kind of deviating towards more fruity beers, kind of like this, or like a tropical IPAs, stuff like that. So this is a great beer. Like I said, 5% alcohol by volume. It's called Son of a Peach, which is hilarious also, with a 16 IBU. So it's not very bitter. It's super easy to drink and tastes just like peaches. It's brewed with real peaches and natural flavor added.
It's a better review, I think, than what most of mine was for about 2 years, right?
It's a better review than yours are now.
Oh, fuck off, man.
All right.
That was great, bud. That was great.
Very, very well done. Appreciate it. Let's get into some wide receivers here. Let's go
Can
ahead.
we talk about Curtis Samuel, please?
We
Yes.
will, yeah. You want to start with Curtis Samuel?
I want to start with Curtis
All
Samuel.
right,
I've
let's
been
kick
waiting
it
all
off with
episode.
Curtis Samuel. Let's let you blow this lid.
Okay, Curtis Samuel. I fucking love this signing. Okay? He is a perfect complement to Terry McLaurin. I still think they need one more piece from a wide receiver core standpoint, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But Curtis Samuel actually excels at deep routes, and in 2019 you saw that. However, his quarterback was Kyle fucking Allen, and Kyle Allen could not hit me if he was standing 3 feet from me. So trying to ask him to hit me 20, 30 yards down the field is damn near impossible. Now you've got Fitzmagic, who can actually throw a deep ball, throwing to Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin. The defense isn't going to be able – they're going to focus on Terry, but they're not going to have – like, that's going to leave too much of Curtis Samuel. So they're going to have to figure out a way to balance, do we cover Samuel, do we cover Terry? And Fitzmagic's going to be able to hit either of them wherever the hell they are on the field. He's probably going to throw 7 interceptions a game, but he's still going to be able to hit Terry and Curtis Samuel. I love this signing. I think it's a perfect balance for Terry and a perfect fit for Fitzmagic to take this offense to the next level.
Hey, Shane, you talk about Kyle Allen. You know he's the backup for Washington.
Yeah, that's about this.
Yeah.
I do.
You better hope Fitzmagic
He's one
plays
bad
about 16
Fitzmagic
other-
game away from.
Fitzmagic doesn't have an injury history.
No, he has an ineffectiveness history.
That's true.
He has,
True.
I'll throw 4 touchdowns, and then I'll throw 6 interceptions the next game.
I'm fine with that because I think their defense is good enough to still win them games with that.
See, somebody that gets
This
my
is
love for
my
Jameis.
This is my concern with Curtis Samuel. So when Ron Rivera had Curtis Samuel, he was basically a deep threat, right? We can see how Ron Rivera uses these wide receivers, and he's bringing Samuel in. Now, when Joe Brady and the new coach, I can't even think of his name right now. Someone help me.
Matt Rule.
Matt Rule come in, right? They paid Robbie Anderson $20 million, and Curtis Samuel was there because he was on his last year of his contract. He was used more as a gadget player, a running back, a wide receiver. I think that when he goes to Washington, I think it's really going to be used to open up things for Antonio Gibson, and I think it's going to be used to open up things for Terry McLaurin. I don't know I think Rivera is going to use him the same way he used him when he was in Carolina. He's just going to be a deep threat to kind of help Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore kind of, work the field. So
I don't necessarily disagree with you, Brad. I just think that the level of play that he's going to get from 2019 Kyle Allen versus 2021 Fitzmagic is going to be different and better. But I'm
Well, it'll be different, that's for sure.
I'm optimistically hoping that he meets somewhere in the middle of what we saw in 2020 with Joe Brady's offense and what we saw in 2019 with Rivera's offense.
Yeah, so I'm excited for McLaurin. I'm excited for McLaurin because I think he's going to be the
He's going to be a
beneficial of
stud.
this. What are you going to pay for Samuel in like redraft or dynasty? Like because I think year over year, dynasty owners are like, this is the year for Samuel. This is the year for Samuel.
Yeah.
What would you pay for him in dynasty?
All right, I got
Right?
this. I got
Go ahead.
this. Hold on, let me go first. I have a fantasy headliners stress ball, a Blake Bortles Funko Pop. Actually, no, I don't want to give that away. A broken wireless mouse, a half-used can of air, and I think this probably dried out highlighter might get it done.
I might get it done.
Okay, go ahead, Shane. Sorry.
What was that? Sorry.
I said go ahead now. You can give a real answer instead of my bullshit.
I would pay, from a rookie draft standpoint, I think I'd pay an early second.
Oh,
Second?
Early second.
well,
I think
that's a lot of
ups-
love for this year because of how good receivers are this year.
I agree, but I think the upside for Samuel is there, and he's already a proven commodity.
That's fair.
Versus someone who you don't know. Now, here's the thing: you could get a T. Higgins in the second round, so it's kind of risk reward there. Do you want to go with it? Take a shot on someone like T. Higgins, who takes 4 games to finally get rolling, or do you want a Curtis Samuel who's going to produce pretty much every game?
I mean, the hope is that he produces every game. And don't get me wrong, I'm still with you on Samuel. He had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage last year, and he only started 5. Like, he played in 15 games, only started 5. The offense, as we found out, really wasn't built for him. It was, Teddy just wasn't. It's Teddy, and as Hopper knows,
Yeah.
I have a strong, deep love for Teddy, but that's more because I'm a Vikings fan than anything else. I expect Samuel to at least be better than what he was back when Ron Rivera was still there, and he was barely used. We'll have to see what Washington does in the draft in terms of adding more pieces to that, because there's still at least 1 or 2 weapons that's going to be added. They're not going to roll in there with fucking Cam Sims or Steven Sims
Or Logan Thomas.
Gandy Golden, or Logan Thomas.
Hey, you watch your mouth
Sure.
talking about Gandy Golden like that.
I think so. The one piece that I think they need to add, Dan, is a jump ball specialist. Someone
they
that can go
kind
up
of
and
had that
get
in
the ball.
Gandy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gandy
So,
Golden?
But
so they're going to draft Seth Williams then. Perfect.
Or that guy from Illinois that had a 48-inch vertical.
Oh, my God.
Seth Williams is my guy.
Shane,
You didn't think I
Shane,
forgot about that, Shane.
Shane, let me ask you a question. I have 2 questions. One,
Hit me.
we can talk about Antonio Gandy Golden, but if you wanted to give it, let's just say Carolina Joe Brady wants to replicate the LSU offense, and he drafts Terrace Marshall. Let's just say Carolina drafts Terrace Marshall.
Oh,
Right?
Oof.
You can have a second-round pick. Would you rather have Terrace Marshall at Carolina, or would you rather have Curtis Samuel in Washington? And then what happens to
Elijah
Antonio
Moore, too.
Gandy Golden?
I'm taking Curtis Samuel
Okay.
because he's going to be the wide receiver 2 in Washington. Marshall would be battling for that position, but he'd probably end up being the wide receiver 3, at least in year 1 in this offense. Because I
That's
think
fair.
it's DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and then it would be Marshall. So that's my thinking on that. But with that being said, it's a very hard decision because I think Terrence Marshall in that role in that offense recreated with Joe Brady would be absolutely filthy. So you're making me think about it, but I'm still going to stick with Samuel for now. AGG, I don't know,
I don't know that
man.
we have to have a take on AGG. I mean, he was a big receiver that we liked a bit, and then didn't really. I mean, we've talked about how
he was kind of hurt.
thin the football team was. He was exactly hurt. Didn't really pan out. There's still potential there if you believed in him. You don't give up on him after one season. But
No, I totally agree.
so there's still a spot out there for him, but it just depends on what else Washington
Depends on who
does.
they draft.
Yeah.
If they draft Seth Williams in the second, I think AGG might be done in Washington. I'm not necessarily for his career, or if they drafted Sage Surratt in the third, or a big body receiver like that before the 4th round, I think AGG's in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Curtis Samuel comes in, he takes away pressure from Terry McLaurin. He allows the defense to back off so Antonio Gibson doesn't have stacked boxes. I mean, I think from a football standpoint, I think Curtis Samuel is a good add because I think it helps McLaurin. I think it helps Antonio Gibson. From a fantasy standpoint, I don't think that Curtis Samuel is really going to move the needle for me. If I'm investing in this Washington offense, I'm investing in McLaurin and I'm investing in Antonio Gibson because I just think Curtis Samuel's brought in to just stretch the defense, back the safeties off, allow them not to stack the box so that Antonio Gibson has room to run, and McLaurin doesn't have to face the top corner and the safety every game.
I agree.
Sure. Will Fuller to the
can't disagree with that.
Will Fuller to the Dolphins on a 1-year deal. This is something that I like. It is Nick, shout out Nick, former third co-host, said in our group chat, it's going to be great for the 6 games a year that Fuller's healthy, and he's suspended for, I think, the first 2. So there's that.
I actually tweeted that during this show. Jetpack Galileo, shout out to the astronauts, tweeted that the Dolphins got Will Fuller for half off, and so I replied to that tweet. Well, they're paying him for the 8 games that he's going to play.
Yeah. Well, awesome, by the way. It's a good compliment, though. It's something that Miami needed. His value should be relatively neutral to what it was in Houston. The first couple years with Nuke on the other side. So, I think that Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Gesicki, you're still going to see targets. Tua needs to develop as a passer. And I think all of that just lands kind of net neutral for Will Fuller. So it's a good spot for him.
No, I love it, but I hate it. I love it because I think it's a perfect fit for Miami's offense. I hate it because I wanted the Green Bay Packers to sign Will Fuller or Curtis Samuel, and they didn't get either. So
they're going to go with the rookie.
Fuck
You
them.
expected them
They're
to
going
be
to go with one of
confident.
the Morse, and we're all going to be happy for it.
I fucking hope so, Dan. If not, if they go 7 rounds without drafting a receiver again, I'm going to have to
I'll
call
laugh my ass off just because
I'm
going to
have to call my grandfather and be like, look, Grandpa, I don't know if I can cheer for this fucking team anymore.
I come to the dark side, which
So-
is just darker shades of color.
If I can talk about the Dolphins real quick now.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Now Tua, I don't know if you guys were high on Tua as a prospect, but if you look at last year, Tua had a completion, a yards attempt per completion was like 6.5 yards, right? And yards per attempt was 7.5 yards. So he's clearly not throwing the ball deep. When you look at Tua as a prospect, one knock on Tua that I really didn't like him, and I had Tua as my third-rated prospect behind Burrow and Herbert. 60% of his completions were Shane, what is that?
You hurt his feelings.
I love Tua Tagovailoa.
All right, so one thing about Tua is, as a prospect, 60% of his completions were to the first read, right? And he had guys like Jerry Jeudy and Devonta Smith, Henry Ruggs, right? I really think that Tua was a product of that Alabama offense. I think he's a good quarterback, but at the NFL level in his first season, he had a 6.5% completion percentage. Yards per completion was a 6.5%. Yards per attempt was 7.5%. He's just not that deep thrower. He's not a deep thrower. So I don't know if this is a signing, again, an NFL signing to help the run game. But again, someone made a tweet. The humidity is not going to help Fuller's hamstring. So I'm just not excited about Fuller. He gets he gets you to that climax, and then it doesn't happen
and then
for
he
you.
gives you blue
You're just
balls.
blowing smoke afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Breaking news.
I have one.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. You're going to want to stop for this. Absolute breaking news here. I'm reading through because, we've been here for an hour and a half or so. So I'm like, all right, what's happened since we got here? The Houston Texans have made some moves. They signed Dante Moncrief.
Go fuck yourself.
Anyway.
I thought you were going to tell me Galladay signed somewhere.
Or there's a Deshaun Watson trade. Nope, Dante Moncrief and Alex Erickson, by the way, just in case you want me to throw that on there too.
Oh,
Okay, so Brad, let me paint a picture for you.
Moncrief truthers have hope now, Shane, and I feel like you're glossing over this.
Yeah, I'm glossing over it. Like my eyes are glossed over. I'm glossing over this Dante Moncrief note.
Oh, that's great.
Dan deals with this every episode.
I do.
Okay. Brad, let me paint a picture for you, okay?
Is it of Dante Moncrief?
No, it's for Tua Tagovailoa. First off, I realize it's freshman year and it's garbage time, but Tua takes a snap at like the 20 or the 30, okay? Runs this way, breaks a tackle by spinning out of it, runs back this way, and throws a touchdown to the opposite corner to Devontae Smith. I think it was Devontae Smith.
It was Devonta Smith.
For a touchdown. It was a fucking rope. Like, you're in Florida, I'm in South Carolina. It was a straight line from South Carolina to Florida to the back corner of the end zone for a touchdown. I think people are forgetting how good, and I'm not going to disagree with you.
How good
on
pre-injury pre-hip injury.
Thank you.
Pre-hip injury, yes.
Thank you, and that's college. We're talking about college football. We see a year of Tua on the pros. So go ahead.
We haven't seen a full year or two on the pros, and this is the shit that pisses me off about. Not you, Brad, but just in general. Like, people have talked shit about like Drew Locke, and I'm like, we haven't.
Oh no!
Oh yes.
Hold on.
No, pump this into my veins. Bring it, buddy. Let's go.
We haven't seen a full year of Drew Locke.
It's
okay.
Oh no!
He didn't start his rookie year until the last 4 games. He was hurt half the year last year. We don't have a full year of Drew Locke.
And COVID.
We
You don't. And he was missing his top
year of Tua.
And he was missing his top wide receiver last year. No,
bingo.
Cortland Sutton. Like, I mean,
It's
Drew.
the same thing with Tua. He hasn't had a full offense. He hasn't had a full year in that offense. And Chan Gailey sucks as an offensive coordinator. Thank you, Wardy of the Astronauts, for pointing that out to me. But I feel like Tua was limited and still recovering from a hip injury.
And this is what I'll say about one-read quarterbacks, too. That's a take that's always interesting to me because a lot of college offenses do scheme for one read. When your one read is Jerry Jeudy or Henry Ruggs or Jalen Waddle or
Devontae
Smith, do you really need to go beyond one read most of the time? It was kind of my, and I say this not because I haven't lived there before. That was one of my big knocks on Deshaun Watson, actually, coming out was, it's one read. Well, if one read's open, then you're okay, and you can't. The one thing I did with Watson, so I'm not letting myself, this is just where I'm coming from, so I'm not letting myself do it with Tua, is discounting knowing how to win and that football IQ and that competitive IQ that comes from knowing how to win. I didn't give Watson enough credit for that, so I can't fall off Tua this early because to me, I'd be making the same mistakes again.
I have a few things. One, Shane, I will agree with you. Chan Gailey sucks. Chan Gailey.
Can you agree with us on Drew Locke?
Chan Gailey is not it, but there's a few things that I look at. So they talked to Devonta Smith and they said pick the difference between Tua and Mac Jones, and he said Mac Jones.
Don't read into this.
And at that point, I'm like, he's hyping the draft capital, right? Tua's in the NFL. He's hyping the draft capital. But then they asked Jalen Waddle the same question, and Jalen Waddle said Mac Jones. So it makes me start to think, was Tua really a product of Alabama, or was Tua a good quarterback? And I really think Tua might have just been he's got a great deep ball. I mean, we know he's got a pretty deep ball. But was he a product of that offense in Alabama? Can he actually read a defense? Can he be an NFL-type quarterback? So I'm kind of concerned about that. But also my next question is, with Miami trading for Will Fuller, there's been a lot of talk about Miami taking Devonta Smith. Do we think that might still happen, or do you think they pass on a wide receiver now and maybe take a player like Patrick Surtain Jr. to help shore up that defense?
They should. I mean, with how deep this receiver class is, I mean, don't get me wrong. We all like Devonta Smith. I mean, I'm not as high on him as most people, but because I come from more of an analytical background to it.
I knew I loved you, Dan.
Yeah,
it's why take him there when there's great depth to be had. Maybe you could take Sewell there at pick 3 and just shore up the offensive line.
Boom.
Protect your franchise quarterback.
Right there. And that's where it is. Yes, the Dolphins take a receiver. No, they don't take one in the first or probably even the second round.
I mean, they could still take one at pick 17, and they could, but
or they could take Travis
just stick Rashad Bateman there, or no, wait till round 2. Maybe you get Elijah Moore. Maybe you can get yourself a Terrence Marshall or whoever slips there, because there's going to be talent that slips. That's how good this draft class really is, and that just speaks to hopefully, the team building commodity. If they decide to trade him away and get a guy like Watson, then that's all off the table. But I think it's one last final thought on Will Fuller. We have a lot of prospects to get, or a lot of news, a lot of news to get to. We're not saying a lot. We can probably bypass.
There's a couple more people we need to talk about, though.
We got to highlight on. We spent a lot of time on Will Fuller for the 8 games he's going to play. Nope.
It's not Philip Dorsett or Rashad Higgins.
You can talk about Corey Davis.
No, I'm going to... Yeah, there's a few people I want to move to here. Corey Davis wasn't actually where I was going next. I was actually going to go here and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And I was going to talk a bit about John Brown being cut by the Bills, signed by the Raiders, and then Emmanuel Sanders subsequently landing with the Bills. So let's start with the Bills side of it first. I think the performance of Gabe Davis in limited duty last year did a lot for, and I'm a Gabe Davis truther, did a lot for the Bills being okay with releasing John Brown, bringing in Emmanuel Sanders, who in his last great year was in Denver. He looked a little bit good with San Francisco. I don't think is a huge threat to that. I think Gabe Davis showed enough to where the Bills feel comfortable with that, and you're going to see his stock continue to rise. I mean, keep in mind, Gabe Davis is a 4th-round pick in rookie drafts for the most part. So his stock's going to continue to rise because of that. Emmanuel Sanders, I'm not out chasing that in Buffalo. He's 2 to 3 years removed from, or 2 years removed from his last full viable season.
I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't make the team. And like we often talk about some of these veterans that are a bit older, they get these contracts. We assume that they're going to be, a focal point. And this is a shout out to guys like Jeremy Hill, who got cut before the season started with the Patriots. Carlos Hyde was cut by the Chiefs before the season started. So I do like Emmanuel Sanders. I think he'll eventually not have a role there. Like he's not worth for fantasy purposes at this point, but it does speak to them wanting to make sure that they add some actual depth to it.
What's your take? What's your take on Bryan Edwards with the signing? What do you
I
think
fucking
about
love Bryan
It
Edwards.
doesn't hurt Bryan Edwards.
Not at all.
The signing of John Brown does not hurt Bryan Edwards. What it does is it says that Henry Ruggs isn't going to be allowed to be ineffective again. That's what the signing of John Brown does there. And it also helps Phil kind of... So you look at the Raiders last year, Nelson Aguilar was their top wide receiver. We'll get to Nelly here in a minute. But Nelson Aguilar was their top wide receiver. Bryan Edwards, I think, gets most of what Aguilar left on the table. I think John Brown's coming in because Henry Ruggs was what we kind of thought Henry Ruggs was going to be, which is John Ross, which is what we knew John Ross was, which is not great. So I think that John Brown is insurance for if Ruggs doesn't pull his head out of his ass and start to put together some productivity, you're going to bring in John Ross, who's a little bit more than a one-trick pony and can help out on the other side of the field. Apparently, I covered it well. Nobody has anything to say, and that's a rarity for this episode.
It's been in 2 hours. I figured Brad may have had a. We talked a lot about some of the other guys. So,
Corey Davis. Let's move on to. Is there anything else to say about that? Did I cover it? Are we good?
You covered it.
You covered it.
Awesome. Something we all agree on. I hit that one out of the park. Okay, let's go to Corey Davis now with the Jets.
I hate it.
I hate it for Corey Davis.
110%.
Until
fucking hate it, man.
After the draft, when they take a quarterback at 3, and then maybe I hate it less. But right now, I don't like it.
No, I hate it no matter what.
Hey, while we're talking about that, did you guys see that Rashad Perriman signed with Detroit?
Yep.
We'll add him to the Keelan Cole and Dante Moncrief segment.
No.
I mean, he was in New York last year, so he's going to Detroit. So that kind of opens up a little bit. What is it? Mims and Davis right now.
It's Mims, Davis, and Crowder.
I mean, it's not a bad.
It's a good receiving core.
All right, so it looks bad because the volumes it seemed like a lot there, and that may actually change. Completely new structure, completely new coaching staff.
Currently, no running game to speak of.
Like maybe Darnold will actually play a full healthy season. Maybe they do draft a new quarterback at pick 2, whether that be Wilson or Fields or Lance, whoever the hell they fall in love with. So
I don't even like Justin Fields, and I feel like they'd be.
I don't even like Trey Lance, and I feel like they'd be stupid not to. Anyway, I don't like Fields much either.
Pissed off Dan.
I love
Zach Wilson all day. That's a different conversation for a different show, though. Who are we talking about again?
Corey Davis?
Talking about the Jets wide receivers.
So Corey Davis, this sucks because Corey Davis is somebody that I wanted to see landed at maybe Detroit, for example, because he's still young enough without Galladay there, or land in a place where he has a chance to be a true one again, but actually have some volume. Davis came into the league raw. Wide receivers sometimes can take 2 to 3 years to put it together. He was playing an A.J. Brown shadow on a low-volume passing offense, but he was still good. And Corey Davis, I thought, did not get, for the season he put together last year, a lot of the respect that
credit
he probably deserved for putting together the season he did on an offense that threw the ball less than 500 times. It's a lot of it is because he doesn't quite have the after-the-catch ability that A.J. Brown does. Nobody does, really. But still solid wide receiver, so you wanted to see him land someplace where there's volume, and the Jets feels gross. But I gotta agree with Dan's take. We need to revisit this after the draft, and let's see what the Jets look like. Do they have a line? Do they have a little bit of a running game? to where Darnold may actually have a shot, because I think you can make some of the same arguments you just made for Drew Lock, Shane, for Sam Darnold, as far as, bad coach. Well, a little different. Darnold had bad coaching
because he's played more,
but he also had bad coaching infrastructure. He's had
shit coaching. I will not disagree with
he's
you.
had no personnel around him, and he's had, he hasn't had it easy in the NFL. Let's put it that way. So I think that after the draft, we'll revisit this one and maybe feel better about it. It has the potential to be very good, just like that receiving core has the potential to be very good. Corey Davis, by the time we get to redraft and startup season, could be somebody we're talking about as a sleeper, somebody that we're talking about as a later round value, because it feels gross in the quality of player that he is. But this is something that I think, to get a true feel for it, we're going to have to revisit in May.
I can't disagree with that at all. I've got him on a roster that I won the championship with last year as a depth piece. I've kind of been trying to trade him just because I wanted to see what I could get after this good year that he put together. But no one's been... I haven't been, pushing for a true what I think I should get for him, because the talent's there, I think. And I think in New York, it's going to be different than what he was in Tennessee, because he might be relied upon to be more of the one. And I don't know how he's going to succeed in that role, depending on who the quarterback is.
Yeah.
So, but I totally agree with you that you could get him probably at a wide receiver 3 value or later in your startup drafts in this offseason. And he's kind of like Will Fuller last year, honestly. And you could get wide receiver 1 potential, maybe.
At least high side 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And, in Dynasty right now, it's a low risk, high reward type of trade scenario with how I imagine this is going to be viewed. I mean, we forget that, we're assuming that the starting 3 is going to be Crowder and Mims and Corey Davis, but they also signed Keelan Cole. So there's an outside chance that Keelan Cole's getting some target volume there, and that, you got to take that into account as well. I think that's more of a threat to Mims, though, than Davis. So go pee. I mean, we take pee breaks on the show. You don't have to hang out. There's 4 of us. You can go pee.
Brad,
we can give Brad some airtime.
Brad, man, you turned the lights on.
The bar lights are pretty cool.
It's just like a fucking party zone now.
No, at 11 o'clock, the Roto Lounge turns into the party lounge.
Attaboy.
So if you are part of the Roto Lounge at 11 o'clock, it turns to a strict party. But
Eastern time, by the way. We're a big fan of time zones here at Beerfield Fantasy Football.
Let's talk about the New York Jets. So the thing about Corey Davis, right? If you own Corey Davis, most likely you drafted him as a rookie. I think he went like 4th, most likely 4th in rookie draft. I mean, you really had to spend some high draft capital. But, I mean, we saw him dominate Stephon Gilmore, the one game against New England. I mean, he just balled out. But there's no consistency there. And I'm concerned about the fact that there's no consistency. We've seen receivers enter the league all the time that have the talent. They just don't have the consistency. So I'm not excited about Corey Davis. I mean, I was excited about him for a few years ago, but the Titans don't feel like he's worth re-signing. The Jets, I mean, the new coach Saleh is just throwing money at players. I mean, we don't know what's going to hit, but I'm a big buy low guy. So I don't buy high. I never buy high. I'm a big buy low guy. I mean, I'm not excited about Corey Davis. I mean,
Brad, I'm about to fight you.
Yeah, I mean, just like Swift, if he hits and I miss, I'm okay with that.
It's all about process, baby. It's all about process.
Right. It's all about process. And to me, he hasn't shown anything over his career except for like one game against – I mean, actually he had 2 games. He had the playoff game. He looked really good. And then the regular season game against Stephon Gilmore, he looked like uncoverable. But why can't he put that together every single week? And that's concerning to me. So I'm fading Corey Davis. I'm letting my league mates spend high on him. If I have him, I'm selling him.
Hold on.
I'm just not excited.
Are you saying that there's going to be, and I'm hoping this drop is what I think it is?
Training camp battles.
Okay, I just wanted to get the Mortal Kombat drop in there. You guys can go now. Let's fight.
go.
Shane.
Okay, in
Shane wants to fight.
2020, Corey Davis played 14 games. He scored double digits in every single game except for 4 of those. One of those he scored 8.9. He had a 35-point game, a 21-point game, and a 26-point game, all in 2020. Which I don't know what that puts his points per game, but he was very consistent in 2020, and that's why I wanted him to go back to Tennessee, is because he fit that role underneath A.J. Brown to consistently produce, and I think part of that might have been A.J. Brown being out for the first 6 or 7 games of the season, but his 35-point game was in Week 13 against Cleveland.
Yeah.
And A.J. Brown was definitely there. Detroit, he scored 21 points in Week 15. A.J. Brown was definitely there. So I would argue with you, Brad, that I think he's figured out the consistency standpoint of it. He scored 3.4 points against Jacksonville, and then he actually dropped 2 zero burgers. He dropped 1 against Green Bay. No idea why. He got 2 targets in that game.
One name why. There's
Jair
one reason
Alexander.
why. Jair, the best cover corner last year. Like
And
Davis
then
just isn't.
Chicago in Week 9, he got 3 targets for 70 and had a 78% snap share. He scored 0 points in that game too.
Well,
I think we have to
He
just,
scored
like,
double digits.
we just
another
have
reason
to get
there
away
too.
from that, like Davis isn't a wide receiver 1. Like I would have loved to see him go
totally
to Green
agree.
Bay,
Yeah.
be a wide receiver 2. Let him work against one-on-one covers. Let him, go against non-top coverage and see what happens. What he had in Tennessee. Tannehill and that whole Tennessee offense isn't a high. It's not a high passing offense.
Exactly. That's why.
It's
That's
efficient.
why I gotta disagree
Exactly,
that
it's
I
fine.
wanted him to go back to Tennessee, and it's only because I would like him to go someplace that throws the ball like 70 to 80 more times a year.
Go to
Totally
Green
agree
Bay
with
where you
this.
have high
Yeah.
volume and high efficiency. Like even Buffalo now, which now we obviously saw what happened there, but there's like you want him to go to a place where there's a lot more volume and efficiency and room to grow within the offense. I think
Yeah.
Davis welcomed his time there
Okay.
in Tennessee.
Couple other receivers we need to get to. We've beaten Corey
Yes.
Davis to death.
We have.
I want to talk about.
real quick.
Uh-oh. We're not done yet.
Real
We're
quick.
bundled.
I need to ask Shane a question.
What? I'm not prepared for this.
We're not done yet.
Sorry.
We're not done yet.
Hold on. I don't mean to
no,
hijack.
no.
I don't mean to hijack.
We're keeping this
but-
game going.
But Shane, like Corey Davis was drafted wasn't he like the 5th overall player or something drafted in his draft?
Yes, he was pick 105.
Okay. And AJ Dillon, who is the fantasy dynasty darling of right now, dynasty AJ Dillon, or not AJ Dillon, I'm sorry, AJ Brown. He was drafted in the 2nd round, but we know he's a dominant player. So for a player that's drafted in the 2nd round to be the darling of dynasty leagues right now, and AJ and Corey Davis was the 5th pick overall to really just underperform. He just underperformed. I just don't think he's NFL type. I don't think he's NFL talent. I just don't think he's NFL talent. Why does AJ Brown outperform Corey Davis when you look at the draft capital if we don't look at talent?
Because A.J. Brown was from a
A.J.
much
Brown?
deeper receiver class and probably would have been the wide receiver 1 in Corey Davis's receiver class.
And
I
AJ
mean-
Brown's built like a fucking Greek god.
Yeah.
But
see,
why hasn't Corey
dra-
Davis done anything? Why hasn't Corey Davis? And as soon as AJ Brown came onto the Titans, he became a stud. So why
He was
didn't
just-
Corey
he
Davis
was
become
over-
a stud?
He was over. I mean, like
he
he was overdrafted,
and
Like, it
you
was
didn't
just-
have the same coaching staff or quarterback in place during Corey
Yeah.
Davis's first couple of years in the league, and I think that's probably the biggest reason is that nobody in Tennessee was
He had an offense
was
with
good.
Mariota and an offense that was like they didn't
And-
know what the fuck it wanted to do either.
And in Mariota's defense, and I'm a Baker truther, and you guys can hate on me for that in just
Good.
a minute, but
Number one Baker fan right here.
Dan, I knew I loved you.
Love me. I got his fucking his jersey upstairs, bro. Love me some Baker. Let's go.
Okay.
I will never quit him.
Mariota and Baker have the same problem. They have had a different head coach and a different offensive coordinator for like 4 years straight.
Until Baker this year when he finally gets the same consistency.
Exactly. But it took Baker this year to get a good head coach and not fat-ass Freddie Kitchens, fuckhead.
Did we land on Marcus Mariota somehow?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
And we're on Baker Mayfield. We're letting this go.
But Mariota didn't have any consistency from year to year within the offense that he was in. So that means the quarterback is having to learn a new offense every year, which makes the wide receivers also have to learn a new offense every year and struggle with a quarterback who's having to learn a new offense every year.
But don't you think Vrabel would be like, look, Corey Davis is a stud. We gotta keep him. We have to make
not
sure
with
he
AJ
stays.
Brown on the
And
roster.
not with AJ Brown, and not with the cap
Johnny
being what the
Smith.
cap is, and Johnny Smith is gone. But not with
I
the
know.
cap
Well, he's
being
gone now.
not with the cap being what the cap is
Yeah,
or
the
anything
cap
like
drops
that. I think that
more than anyone was expecting.
you don't have to go out and sign. You don't have to have the luxury to go out and sign Corey Davis. And I don't even remember what the individual takes were, so I'm just going to give mine. I kind of agree. Corey Davis is a stud, and I think Dan said it earlier too. You just got to be okay with him being a high upside, a good wide receiver 2 versus a stud wide receiver 1, and that's okay in today's league because a good wide receiver 2 can give you a top 15 wide receiver season.
I mean, if the Jets throw the ball 600 times,
Yeah.
it's a good chance that Davis is a wide receiver 2+. I mean, like we've seen multiple teams every year support 2 wide receiver 1s. At least one team seems to every year support at least.
And there's
one.
a handful more that have a 1 and a top 20.
Yeah. All right. We've beaten this guy to death.
Last
point.
Final thoughts on Corey Davis. Otherwise, I swear to God, I will turn this car back around straight to Dante Moncrief, and we'll talk about him for 35 minutes.
I mean, I know. Last thought, and then we'll move on. I think Corey Davis has all the talent in the world. We've seen it,
Yeah.
but there's no consistency, and I think that's why I don't have faith in him because there's no consistency in that.
I just don't think
domination.
he's as good as what I think as people advertise. He never tested too. Like it was all based off of game production and game speed, which you saw in film, and we've seen that kid
small school
bite
guy.
teams in the ass.
And small school guy, too. But,
All right, next guy.
yeah, as
Next-
far as consistency,
place.
by the way, Eddie, well, I don't know about that, actually. I'm going to stop that take right there.
Phone died.
That's what happens when we spend 40 minutes on Corey Davis. Your phone dies.
I know. If
Yeah.
you guys keep this up, I'm gonna go through my whole bottle of smoke wagon.
That's what we
Right.
do. I mean, hey, we haven't even approached our lawn.
We haven't gotten to the ball blast level of...
Yeah, fucking ball blast pros. We
The
went
ball
3.5
blast
hours,
episode
so-
was 3.5 hours long. That's the last time we did 4 people, too, actually.
Yeah.
Might be a reason for that.
I'm gonna have to go to another bottle of bourbon.
I've got 3 sitting here with me.
I've got to work tomorrow. I'm
I do, too.
rude.
It's fine.
You're good.
So, moving on, I want to move on to some of the guys on this list that either were studs past their prime, there's one of those, or that are more so not great names, but that land in a spot where there's going to be plenty of opportunity there. So, I would like to real quick go through, let's call it Nelson Aguilar, Tyrell Williams, AJ Green,
Kendrick Bourne?
and Kendrick Bourne.
Kendrick fucking.
And Kendrick Bourne, yes.
Don't say Kendrick fucking Bourne. I
Kendrick
love Kendrick fucking Bourne.
Bourne.
It's the Kendrick Bourne's the Demir Bird replacement. It's a better Demir Bird in New England.
I liked Kendrick Bourne, and when he replaced, basically when he was the only receiver in San Francisco, he produced consistently at 8 to 10, 12 points a game in fantasy. So as a flex play, that's a decent play, which is what you drafted him for, most likely, as a fill-in flex play. So I like Kendrick Bourne with more opportunity as a true, not a true, but a with the opportunity of a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. So I like Kendrick Bourne. I think Nelson Aguilar and him in New England are going to be a hell of a pairing, to be completely honest. And that probably sounds dumb as shit to anyone who's more sober than I am, but I think that's a good pairing. Like,
to anybody that's more sober than you are, which is going to be 99% of everybody.
Pretty much at this point.
It's 75% of people on this show, I think.
You might be drunker than everybody here.
I definitely am.
I am almost done with this with my
Well, if you bottle kill it,
I'm not gonna bottle kill it.
I've already had.
Why not?
I'm saving this.
Bourbon's made for drinking, Dan.
For a special evening, Chris.
It's for with friends. You're drinking with friends. That's what bourbon's
That's
for.
true.
Anyway,
That's true.
I'm gonna stand for my favorite signing out of this New England class. That's Nelson Aguilar, and this is not the first time I have stumped on this show for Nelson Aguilar. I'm an advocate for, and
I like it.
I'll give it a little bit of context. I'm an advocate for having a receiver on your roster that is likely not going to blow up or give you big performance, but is going to give you a flex type floor level performance that you can plug in case of injury, by apocalypse weeks, etc., when you find yourself in a pinch. And to me, Nelson Aguilar is one of those guys that has very much served that role very, very well for me. A couple Bucks guys on the show, Adam Humphries did it when he was in Tampa Bay. That just fills that role out for me nicely. So Aguilar lands in a spot where there is some opportunity. We don't know what's going to happen with Edelman. Jacoby Myers is another guy that I liked a lot coming out of the draft that has flashed a little bit. New England's another place, though, where there's plenty of opportunity for these wide receivers to break out. And we saw
N'Keal Harry sucks.
N'Keal Harry does suck. So we saw with opportunity that Nelson Aguilar can give you wide receiver 2 type upside, mostly wide receiver 3 to 4 floor. Is what he did in Oakland. Las Vegas. Damn it, I did it. It's what he did in Vegas. He's did it a couple seasons with the Eagles. He's going to have another chance to do it in New England. So, he's a guy that you're not running out and trading for as a centerpiece of a deal. But if you're looking for a throw-in and you're on a contending team in Dynasty, I think it's an okay piece to have thrown in there just so you have a little bit of depth. And, in redraft, he's going to be somebody at some point. You're not drafting him, but he's going to be somebody at some point that we're talking about on a waiver run. I really want this Nelson Aguilar thing to go longer. Can we make it go longer?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the Patriots.
He was the Raiders' #1 receiver last year, so I don't see why he can't be the Patriots' wide receiver 1 this year.
I mean, there's no competition outside of Hopper's other favorite
Jacoby Myers?
receiver, Jacoby Myers.
And my other Demir Bird being there too. Demir Bird was like a preseason darling that one year with Carolina. So
you do love these preseason. It's my favorite thing about you.
I just like to
I always pick them up and they always fucking pan.
I just like to overhype these random ass players for no reason. Just like they had one big game and I'm just all about it.
He's like JoJo Nansen. I think we also got signed by the Browns today.
Where's the
JJ
he did?
Nelson.
Where's the Robert Foster signing when you need it? Keelan Cole. Anyway, Brad.
Fuck Keelan Cole.
Brad, New England receivers real quick, and then I want to touch on Tyrell Williams for just a second because it needs to be said.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't know what the Patriots do, man. They can never hit on a wide receiver. I mean, they haven't had a wide receiver 1, and I can't even know how long.
Edelman's last full healthy season.
Yeah, I mean, they signed Philip Dorsett a few years ago. They're signing Kendrick Bourne. I mean, to me, there's just wasted picks, and I don't know if the Patriots are just signing these players to get the compensatory. How do you say that?
Compensatory.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like they're just Belichick is just strategizing to just get these comp picks. I mean, Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar do not move the needle for me at all. If I'm investing in anybody in this New England offense, it's either Jonnu or it's either Hunter Henry because Cam, his arm's shot. So pick one, pick Jonnu or pick Hunter Henry. I don't care about any of the receivers that New England signs.
It's going to be just you draft Cam Newton. He's not going to go back to what he was in his MVP season with Carolina. There's obviously, at least they're putting playmakers around him. And he's going to be a full year removed from being on COVID and everything like that. So there's at least some upside in that. But there's, I no fucking clue what New England's doing here. Like, I don't dislike Nelson Aguilar, but okay. Like, you gave Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar, what, 25, 30 mil between the two a year? Like, it just seems like you're just throwing money around at that point.
The question goes back to when you look at New England and their comp picks, right? In order to get a complimentary pick, you have to have a player within the top 35% of payroll. Does Cam Newton hit that, right? Do the Patriots trade up to get Mac Jones, let him sit, let Cam Newton play? When Cam Newton leaves the unrestricted free agent, the Patriots get a comp pick. Mac Jones takes over the starter. I mean, I just don't understand. Like, Belichick's strategy is like way above. Like,
and it's not like they draft well.
My intellectual thought process. I mean, he's way ahead of me. So I just don't understand. His moves are like probably more than I can even comprehend.
He's playing chess, and you're sitting at the table chewing on checkers.
They get him every year. He gets comp picks every year based on the players that he signs, and then he lets them go.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, other than that, Tyrell Williams, real quick. This doesn't really require a lot of discussion. I would just like to point out the Lions currently have, like, him and Quintez Cephas under contract at wide receiver, and that's it. So
there's like 200 vacated targets here.
Yeah, so right now there's a ton of targets there. I don't expect that to hold throughout the offseason, but right now, ton of open targets in Detroit.
TJ Hawkinson season, motherfucker.
We got the MF reference.
There we go. AJ Green to the Cardinals. I think people made a lot more out of this than needed to be made about this. I don't think this is anything.
AJ Green is absolute garbage now. He's old. He's hurt. He's not worth dog shit.
Speaking of things that aren't worth dog shit, John Ross signed with the Giants. Anyway, moving on.
Tight ends.
Tight ends, real quick. The couple things to talk about here. Patriots, obviously, being the biggest one. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. They went out and grabbed the two best tight ends on the market.
Because fuck you, we want to rebuild Gronk and Hernandez. Again, none of them are Gronk and none of them are Hernandez. So
who's the murderer?
Bill Belichick of all of our fantasy value.
Yeah, that's what it is.
He just completely killed two.
It's actually a murder-suicide to the value and excitement we had for both of those guys based on where they were going to land.
I mean, it's granted they're not the top three tight ends in Dynasty, so who really gives a shit beyond that? Because most of them are they're not that far apart between 4 and 15. But at least with Jonnu and Henry, you at least had some fantasy value there. And now that entire place is going to be just depleted.
Actually, the more I think about it, the more this tight end discussion is just going to be depressing. Josh Oliver went to the Ravens to live in obscurity behind Mark Andrews, even though I love Josh Oliver. Ferkser back to the Titans.
Swaim and Ferkser, yep.
And then Jared Cook signed to the
Ferkser,
Chargers.
I barely know her.
And then Jared Cook signed with the Chargers.
I don't hate that, though, as a Hunter Henry replacement for 1 year.
Yeah, I don't either. That's
the one tight end that I'm interested in, and I don't know if you mentioned it, Gerald
Everett with
Gerald
Seahawks.
Everett,
yeah.
Let's go.
Seattle.
Yes.
Now, the one thing that I noticed is that Seattle's new offensive coordinator, he was the tight ends coach in for the Rams when Everett was there, and so he probably had some say in bringing Everett into Seattle, and I was a big proponent of Greg. I'm sorry,
Olsen?
I've had too much bourbon.
Olsen,
Greg, the tight end for Seattle last year.
Olsen?
Greg Olsen.
Is this thing on? Did I say that like 4 times?
Testing.
It's the bourbon.
Testing. 1, 2,
It's the
3.
bourbon.
Testing.
It's definitely the bourbon. But anyways, Seattle, Russell Wilson loves throwing to his tight ends. You know, I was a big proponent of Greg Olsen last year. The new offensive coordinator coached Gerald Everett, so I would not be opposed to adding him as a buy low for a potential breakout in Seattle next year.
I love Everett in Seattle.
I love Everett's athleticism. I thought that he was going to be something with the Rams. It also gets him out of Tyler Higbee's way, so you actually just kind of got 2 somewhat useful tight ends, really. And Josh Reynolds is no longer in there.
We lose John O. Smith and Hunter Henry so we can get Gerald Everett.
I think one of them will probably end up being something
Bryson
there
Hopkins.
in New England, but yeah. Cole
Deep stash for you dynasty players. Bryson Hopkins.
Komet. Bryson Hopkins, I liked. Harrison and Hunter
Cole Kmet.
Bryant.
Don't get me
Cole
started
Kmet.
on Cole Kmet.
We're not going to get you started on Cole Komet. Been doing this for
That's
2 hours
bad.
and 15 minutes. We're not talking Cole Komet on this show.
We got an after party to get to, so let's
Right.
Fuck, we do.
Social media. Thank you guys for tuning in, by the way. This has been an awesomely fun show. A lot of good takes back and forth. More people we get in, the more diverse takes we get on the show, and that's absolutely awesome because then it gives you, the listener, the chance to decide who the hell you want to believe. Don't listen to me, like, ever. You only lock once. Just kidding.
Probably
You
have
lock
stopped
all the
listening
time.
to me about the hour and a half mark because
He fits right into
Bourbon
the
and
show.
beer.
He
Does.
should probably have turned off the show an hour and a half ago.
Right. Beerfield Fantasy Football. Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube for now. Beerfield on all your podcast platforms, starting with this episode. There's a thing there. Kind of like, why is it different? There's a thing there. Beerfield on all your podcast platforms. Beerfield FF on Twitter, Instagram, Untapped. Shane, before you fall asleep where you're sitting and fall over a desk and whatever, go ahead and shout out your social media. And one more time, where can the people find you?
at FF Shane B. I'm the social media coordinator for the FF Astronauts, with a shout out to Nick Penikoff, who is helping me while he's on a break from school. I also write for the 14 Personnel P guys. And I'm the co-host for the Fantasy Nightcap.
You had to
Sign
think
up
about that for a second. What else do I do?
Sign up for Polly's Playoff. It's my pinned tweet. It's like the 6th tweet in the pinned tweet because I did it as a thread.
Yep.
I need to make that a lot more simpler. But yeah, sign up for Polly's Playoff. $10 donation entry fee for the Walk to End Alzheimer's and a chance to compete in a 240-person fantasy football tournament. So, roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Brad, one more time, where can the people find you? Like, kind of our sister concept you got going on there, so super awesome. Where can they find you?
Well, first, before I talk about that, Hop, Dan, Shane, I definitely appreciate you guys having me on. I hope I wasn't too drunk. My volume's not right. You know, I'm
Sorry I talked too much, Brad.
We don't edit, and I adjust volume on the fly. That's why I have the mixer board, so you're good. You've been good the whole time.
He dealt with me, so you're good.
I love being on here, just talking fantasy football. So I appreciate you guys.
Of course, man. Of course.
Loyalty to the best. I love you guys. Anyways, if you want it, if you made it this long and you followed, you can find me on Twitter at RotoLounge. We talked about the Bourbon Bowl. If you're interested in playing fantasy football, and the winner gets a bottle of tremendous bourbon, perhaps some Weller 107. Hit me up on DMs on Twitter at RotoLounge.
Actually, Darren will probably get into that. Like,
you definitely got to get into that.
we didn't.
I'm doing some YouTube. I'm trying to get my YouTube presence up a little bit. I'm doing some data film comps. I got a data model that I talk about prospects. So if you're looking for some dynasty prospects information, find me on YouTube at RotoLounge. But again, you can find me on Twitter at RotoLounge. I'm just talking fantasy, drinking bourbon, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. This is my virgin voyage, so I definitely appreciate it. And there's some special, if you lose your virginity, there's some special memories. So I got some loyalty to Shane and Hop and Dan. So I love you guys. I appreciate you having me on.
I was happy to pop your fantasy. I was
time,
happy to pop your fantasy Luxardo cherry.
Popping cherries and popping bourbons.
Cherries and bourbon's a completely different conversation, but I was super happy to pop your fantasy Luxardo cherry. By the way, we've got a listener that is absolutely going to get this episode up. Another guy that is just big into bourbon, Darren Gray. So, didn't see him in the chat tonight. Normally he's there for us, so he'll catch this and listen to it. So
he'll laugh his ass off.
He will. He'll enjoy this.
You never forget your first time, guys. You never
forget your first time.
Wait, what was your name again? God damn it.
And that's how we know the show's getting copyright claimed, because that drop does it 100% of the time.
Yeah.
100% of the time I've used the Titanic drop, YouTube has yelled at me. So there's something about Celine Dion. They're not on board with that.
They're just like, no.
Yeah.
Wherever you are. Okay,
It's time.
Guys to go look up MAW Men's Ensemble in 2012. And you will see me and like 15 other guys singing, or I can't even fucking remember the name of the song, but that song from Titanic.
My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion.
Yes. You need to go look that up. You will enjoy it. And if you hear a screeching noise trying to hit the high soprano note, that is 1,000% me.
What a great way to end the show. It's over the outro.
That might have been my favorite outro of all time, because it's just over the outro. It was over the outro. We're clear now, by the way.